that. 1, 2, check, Chuffy, 1, 2. I'm starting stream right now because if you see down in the left corner there, see down in the left corner, yeah, you can hear me. You can hear me. See down there? See down there? We've got a cat and a dog. Cat and a dog in the dog cam. It's finally happened. It's finally happened. A dog has joined me while I'm sitting working on the computer. The cat's come in now. Hello, Omar. Is he going to lie down there? Oh my, this is big news. This is big news. Let me make that big. Speed dial. Webcam it is. Let me make it big. Let me bring it up. Oh, let me bring it up and put it on top. It's even bigger than my face now. It's even in the way of my face. But look at them there. Look at them there. Now, you'll see there's a bit of a delay on the camera. If I do this, look, I just move my hand in front. Oh, it took a little while to happen. There's a chuffing delay on it. Now, I've spent all week. I've done 2 full days this week, making everything sync up. It's good, isn't it? Though? We've got the dog and the cat. Dog and the cat action. Soy milk, chocolate soy milk. Got the dog and the cat. Hi, you're with Scott. Got the dog and the cat. Let's just shrink it out there in my face. So, I'm going to talk a little bit quietly because I'll put my hand in the way again. Keep your hand out of the way. I'm going to talk a little bit quietly because I don't want to disturb the animal action. But yeah, I spent the whole week trying to get these cameras. I did get it all in sync. I thought I did. I did a test where I recorded everything. 2 cameras, me talking, the virtual reality system, the desktop audio, the videos. Did it all. Got it all in sync. Turned it on today. Oh, there he goes. There goes the fatty cat. He's going into the bed that's just here. The bed just here. Got any noise? You got it. We were going to have the camera on the bed where the cat is, but it's alright there for a minute with the dog, isn't it? It's alright there for a minute with the dog. Let's just do this. Let me shift it so you can't see my hands. Or you don't see my hands. There you go. So it's just more of a dog. There you go. More of the doggy. Just sleeping in the doorway there. Yeah, so some new things have happened this week for stream. Got my hand straight in the way again. Got the virtual reality system. We'll do some talking about that another time. We're going to do some talking, of course. Do some chuffing about that. But another time. You might notice. Where do I get started with all this? Right, so we've got a month to go before January hits. And I said we're going to start the podcast. We're a lot further ahead than I thought we'd be on stream at this point. We've talked about this before. I'm eternally grateful. I'm so grateful to you chuffers. The Patreon support, the tippies, the chippies, the subscribers, the tippers, the... what do they call them on Twitch? They're subscribers as well on Twitch, aren't they? Everything, all that, all of it. It's all been adding up. I've been chipping away at the top. I'm trying to save up for this powerful computer to run stream in the future. You know, a big powerful PC like they have. I think it would make some things easier. I use a rickety old Mac. It's working though. It's working with every port full and flashing lights and wobbly wires. It's working though. And what I decided to try and do for the end of the year to finish strong, I could push for a podcast episode. I could try that. Still trying to get that practice run going. Things are busy for people, aren't they? Things get busy around this time of year. Yeah. I got the virtual reality system. Said to myself, look, you only live once. It's a good price point. I think it's a good thing for stream to have another string to the bow. But we're not a virtual reality stream in the same way as we're not a computer game stream and we're not a mental health stream. We're a variety stream where we talk about art, games, culture, mental health every Monday, 8 PM GMT. And it's going quite well. And we wanted to add a podcast to that. A regular monthly sort of deep conversation with someone interesting. So I'm a lot further on than I thought I'd be but at this point. And the financial support, like I said, it's enabled me to buy these little, I say little, they're not little things, they're quite quite expensive things really, but I could. The big powerful computers over £1,000 are probably nearing 800 in terms of spend thus far on bits and lights and microphones and wires, and you add these things up and it starts to. And I think to myself, should I have not spent all that and just saved up for the computer? No, I think I'm doing a good thing by incrementally. You can't see my hand now. By incrementally increasing the quality of the stream, we just make it a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And I think that when someone does come and sit here in this room and do the podcast, I do want it to be good quality. I'd love to have a 4K camera. See, there's some other big spend things that you don't see. You understand the computer, that's obvious. You get Steam, you're on Windows, you've got all access to all the Windows applications that make your stream look nice and jazzy, whatever. We've got Tippy on screen, we've got the sound, we've got the things. We're a bit more MacGyvered, we're a bit more, have you got an adapter for that, and can you make that work on this old Mac? We're a bit more like that, but we're working. But the thing is, you don't see, like the camera itself, that's quite a good camera I've got. It's not 4K. It's not 4K. It's out of date now, really. So an upgrade to a 4K camera is a step forward that we're going to take in the future. And I have to say to myself, which priority again? Which priority? Because at the moment, the stream is running. If I get a new computer, it doesn't really change much from what you see. You still see me on the screen. You still see us playing the games. It opens up a new world of games. It opens up a new world of stream management application. But the actual physical quality of the stream, whether it's 1080p, whatever, that might not change so much. We're managing it at the moment. I've been working on learning a bit about the settings and the kilobytes and stuff. We're managing at the moment. So, and the same thing kind of goes for the camera. I don't know if you've noticed. It doesn't, same, not exact. Today we're a little bit sharper. I don't know if you noticed. We're also a little bit closer in. It's quite a big face I've got on me today. Quite a big face. And, oh, my hand going in shot there. We can't make my face any smaller on this lens. This is a new lens. Oh, well, that's good, isn't it? What? We're in Black Friday. I'll tell you a little story about my camera. Got that little A7S and used my old kit lenses from my Nikon cameras. Got an adapter. When we did the Eddie Strongman filming, I borrowed an adapter and a Canon lens from Matt. So that lovely camera body over there has never really had a lovely lens on it. For photography jobs and for filming jobs, I've got a really nice long lens. I did invest in a nice long lens, and that gives me the ability to film really nice shots when I'm at a bit of a distance on a job. But the way we use the camera for the webcam, sat over there quite close to me, it's more of a portrait shot, and I don't have a nice portrait lens, simply don't. Now I do. Thanks to you and thanks to the Tippy Chippies, now I do. Now, one of the things that you might notice is it's sharper. You might also notice the colours look better. You might not notice that, but they do. Through this lens, they do. But there's another facility that this gives me. And it's only little. It's not a major... I'm bringing up the window now, the remote viewer window. It's a silly little thing, really. But I haven't been able to do this before. Do it for me then, camera. There you go, look. Oh, is it going to focus? It's focusing on my hand. You see that auto-focused on my hand? I wonder if my hand looks pretty or... Anyway, look. My pretty hand. Now my face. Autofocus. No, I haven't had an autofocus lens before. When you're film jobbing it, just lock it into place there. When you're film jobbing it, you don't use an autofocus lens because you see how it hunted and it went looking for this, and call that hunting. I'll take it off and show you some hunting. While it's hunting, while it's doing that, if you're filming something and it suddenly starts hunting, if someone moves or puts the hand up and it does that, that's no good. That's going to ruin your shot. It's going to ruin it. So we don't use autofocus. You see, it did it then. It hunted for me midway through me talking. We don't use autofocus when we're filming. We find the focal range we want, we lock it, and switch to manual, and if you did have to focus, you would smoothly use that manual focus. You wouldn't have that autofocus going. But for stream, this is great, because what it's enabled me to do now is, in the past, you haven't seen me as sharply as you ever have done right now. And the reason for that is because I've been using, I'll show it you, I've got it here in my hand, I'll show it you. And I use the new autofocus function to show you how we've improved the stream. Look at this, I'll show it you, look. Come on then, you focus, there you go. That is an old Nikon lens. So the autofocus function doesn't work because it's got an adapter on the back. And that adapter is literally just a piece of metal that, come on, jazz hands, there you go. It's literally just a piece of metal that changes the fit of the lens. So look at it, autofocus is nice, isn't it? It's nice, isn't it? So that's what we've been using. And the adapter was only about 20 quid. I bought it years ago. I suppose it was probably a little bit more than 20 quid, to be honest. And the lens came free with my camera that I got for my birthday some years ago. So, you know, it's an old Nikon kit lens and an adapter. So it was limiting in terms of being able to focus from automatically. But also, even though that's a half decent lens, even though it's all right, I've got some nice shots out of it over the years, even though that's all right, this new lens being a little bit more expensive, a prime, meaning it doesn't have a zoom on it, it's just one fixed focal range. This is the, if you want to make it closer, you have to come closer, and if you want to get further away, you have to go further away. It's not a zoom lens, just fixed. This new lens is sharper. It looks better, like you can see the quality of the image is better, the colours will look better, but also it's got those autofocus functions and stuff like that. So it's definitely a huge step forward. I got it on the Black Friday sale, so I saved a chunk of money on it. So I'm saying thank you to the supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to afford to improve the quality in this way. It's a funny step, isn't it? Because it's not an improvement on the camera, which is something we're saving up for. It's not an improvement on the computer, which is something we're saving up for. But actually, it makes quite a big improvement on the stream, because you see it every day. Because you watch me every day. Have we got your chat up? Let me make sure that I'm not chatting away and I can't see your chat. Where's chat window? Oh, we have got your chat up, it's just in a funny shape and size there. Chat window, let's have that. So you can be seen. Welcome to the jungle, welcome to the chat room. Welcome to the jungle. Now, so I'm saying thank you for that at the start of the stream, making sure I thank you for that. And this will be ongoing. I'm now at a point where I can feel that we've got a consistent thing going on stream. So I'm not going to predict my income into the future. I'm not going to say, oh, count your chickens before they're hatched. But I know that I can invest around about a few $100s every month into the stream, not go hungry. And it's important because we need to make the stream better, don't we? We need to make it improve. It's not just the kit and the editing and all that stuff. It's also the content, what I do here with you. And it's also the podcast, which is coming. The content improvement is quite straightforward. I need to do more planning, more writing for these chuff-along streams. That's something I need to do. I believe that when we get the stream rolling and consistent, I don't have to do the head thinking about lenses and microphones and wires, and you know, when I'm not doing that thinking, when things are a bit more consistent, I'll have more time for the writing, which I used to have before. No problem. The podcast will come, no problem. Well, it's a bit of a problem. I have to do extra work to source the guests and get them in the chairs, but it's not a huge problem. It's something I'm gonna give a good crack at. So those things, and the other thing, the VR. Obviously, VR is quite, what's the word, trendy at the moment. It's going to improve, isn't it? It's going to get better, and more people are going to use it. Something I've always wanted to be involved in, something that I've been deeply interested in for many years and not been able to afford. So for $300, that's a really huge thing for me. And like I said, when my second cousin died, my nephew, not whatever you want to call him. I just felt you only live once, let's have a little bit of fun as well. And so there's some more content as well, there isn't there? We can talk about VR, we can look at VR games, and it's something that maybe, when I watch streams, quite often I watch streams of people who are doing things that I don't. I watch the PC games that I don't own, because I vicariously see what it's like through them. So maybe, you know, VR can hold some interest for some people for those reasons. Or maybe they have VR and they want to talk to me in VR chat, that might be fun, who knows. But there's another string to the bow. So I can see for a small, not having to spend $2,000 on a PC, not having to spend $2,000 on a camera, spending a couple of $100 on a lens and a headset, we make a big step forward on the stream. It's like steps, isn't it? Steps. And at the same time, we're not spending all the money that's coming in. We're not throwing it all away on just toys. So we're able to still save towards that computer, still have that as the goal. Did he just get up and chuff off? He just got to chuff off. Oh, we had you on camera today, Marlo, and you've chuffed off. We'll have to have a look at the cat then. We'll have to have a look at the cat. The cat is right under there. Little chuffer. And we're going to get it to point at the cat. He's under there and it's dark and I haven't got a little tripod. There's another thing I need, a little tripod for the camera. Right, so for now, we'll just put that there and then we'll just turn it off. Speed dial is no longer. So, what was I saying? I was saying we're making little improvements. They're quite big improvements and I'm really grateful that we're able to do that. And I believe that as we push into the new year, when we get the podcast rolling, that will give us added visibility online. More people will be interested to come and look at what we're doing. That will have a knock-on effect to the stream. It's a really difficult world on YouTube and Twitch to get that ball rolling, get that snowball moving. It's difficult for me as somebody who struggles from day to day just to get routines in place and what have you. But I really feel positive about it. I'm really grateful. And to that end, I'm just explaining what we're doing. There is another point to make here. Which is that this lens is too close. Look at it, it's really pretty. It's a nice image. It's got the autofocus. It didn't break the bank. And I got it on the Black Friday sale with a nice chunky discount. It matches the camera. It's a Sony lens for a Sony camera. It's something that I've wanted for a good few years. When I upgrade the camera, I can still get the next level up of the A7S and still use this lens. It's not a, you know, I've got lenses that I've used for years and years, so I know it's a good buy, but it's a little bit too close. Now my choices are move the camera further away. Like I said, it doesn't have a zoom. Move the camera further away, or I sit further away. So it might be a really good lens for that podcasting stuff. It might not, you know, it might still be too portrait, too close, too big face. It might be quite nice for this. You might like my big face in pure, true HD with imperfections and blemishes, collagen drained, smoker's skin. I'm just grading myself. I'm what do you call it? Berating myself. I'm berating my own image. I don't look at myself a lot, except in the edit and in the mirror. There I am on the telly now. Look. Anyway, it's a better image, but it's a little bit close. So what I've done is I've ordered another lens. Oh, now you're chuffing. I could send this one back. It's free to send back. Oh, now it's conversations, isn't it? Now it's. But I really want the other one as well. Oh, I want them both. Ah. When the other one arrives, we'll try them both out. We'll see which one's best. We could consider sending one back to save ourselves a few £100 that we don't really need to spend, because you can't use two lenses at the same time, even though you're going to want to keep that in. I want that now. I've been going around, you know what, I'll tell you the darn tootin' truth. I've shot videos and jobs on this. You wouldn't tell them, oh, this is a Nikon kit lens and a little adapter. Really, it could be better quality than that. You wouldn't tell them that. And it doesn't, you don't look at it and go, oh, that's bad quality. You know, it's not like that. It's just that you know, because because you've seen the difference on stream. You can probably, it probably looks a little bit brighter. The aperture is a bit wider on the, it's a bit more full frame. It's a bit using slightly more of the sensor, and it's sharper. So, I mean, those settings, I could make it look darker just by changing the settings. So it might not be the lightness and brightness that you want to grade it by. But anyway, look, it looks better. It's great, and I can see myself getting. We shot a wedding the other day, me and my sister, and I could see myself, you know, what's the word? Getting some use out of this, definitely. So we're using it now, and I feel bad about really using it and then sending it back. Oh, I used it a bit, have it back. It probably won't end up being resold. It'll probably end up going in some bin, won't it? Or I don't know what happens to these items. But it's a good lens, and we're getting another one. Next week we're going to get it's slightly cheaper, but again, it's about the range and the length and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to get that sorted. And it's going to be it is already. I've talked about it too much, but I'm quite into it. So I know it's not content talking about the stream, the behind the scenes, but you know, I feel like I owe it to the people who. Oh, smoking on the internet, that was naughty. I owe it to the people who contribute to show them and tell them what's happening. And yeah, so the other thing I was saying about that was I feel like I'm not putting enough effort in now. I am putting the effort in. I'm doing behind the scenes stuff, working on the backstage stuff, but the actual streams themselves, I feel like we're going to coast into Christmas. Whereas maybe I should like build up and put more effort in. I'm sort of feeling a little bit hibernatey in my life as well. I'm feeling a little bit hibernatey. And I told us on Mental Health Monday, you need to get used to going out. Go out more. But with this new strain of COVID that has sparked up, we've got it in the UK now, and the new numbers, you know, the higher numbers, the winter, it just feels a little bit more worrisome, doesn't it? It feels a bit more worrisome. So I do need to try and get out a bit more. I do need to do some family stuff over Christmas. But as for the stream itself, yeah, like I said, I've not planned any big celebration at Christmas. I've not planned any big, you know, we've got Mental Health Monday, every Monday, 8 PM GMT. That's going to continue. Every Wednesday, I'm going to be on stream either talking about some art take thing, culture thing, or playing a game. Fridays, I want to be on stream playing games, or those days might slightly shift. I also want to be doing streaming on YouTube Tuesdays and Thursdays. I still want to try and fix that before we hit the new year. So I want to try and fix that. And like, you know, we've got enough stuff to do, haven't we? We can play virtual reality games. We can talk about them. Today we're going to talk about some of our watch later list. We've got more watch later list ever expanding. Excuse me, just a little puppy. And you know, things come up. I talk about them. I've got ideas. I've got an ideas. See, then I leaned over and you lost me on the. That's why it's too close up, because I can't move much. Otherwise, you lose me. I've got ideas though. I've got an ideas list of things on my notes of streams and stuff. So we've got lots of things to see and do together. So it's not like it's petering out. But at the same time, I feel like when we get the podcast going, you know, we're going to start. Oh, I'm going to energy again, a new year, new thing, and yeah, I just didn't want you to feel that this month, what's going on? What's going on? Why is it just because I said, didn't I? You know, you've got to go out more. You can't sit at home watching the computer. No, mental health wise, we're going to be trying to push out into the world a little, even if it's dangerous and whatever. We're going to try and, you know, do a bit of social and building forward towards the stream wise. My head's in a sort of backstagey place. Content wise, I feel we're good. I feel we've got a few strings to that bow to keep twanging on. Let's get on with it. Done enough chuffing now, haven't I? Done enough chuffing. 20 minutes of chuffing. Didn't do the clapperboard. There's no point doing the clapperboard today. Cam's already been turned off, and I know that this is all in sync because I've checked it a million times. I just don't know. Can you believe this? How is that webcam now out of sync? The camera that was on the dog earlier. How is that now out of sync? Because that's in sync with the VR playing, and the VR playing is in sync with the microphone, and you're listening to me on the microphone, which is in sync with the A7S. So the A7S must be in sync with the webcam, mustn't it? Like that camera that you're watching me through now is in sync with this microphone. Yeah? Yeah. Happy. We're both happy with that. That camera down there that was on the dog earlier, that was out of sync, that when I was moving it was out of sync, that's in sync with this microphone. So how's that? They're not in sync with each other, but they are in sync with them. I can't. You know, we've done a video earlier this week where I played on the virtual reality. It was all in sync. Me and Trev went killing, all in sync, violent. Give me a perspective on able to talk about violence from video games from a new perspective. It's going to be interesting, hopefully. We're going to do some research. Just wanted to have a little dip into it and talk about it. Not the authority, just wanted to have a little dip into it and talk about it. So it worked. And I've turned this on today, new lens. That's going to be great. Let's turn on all the stuff. Why is that webcam out of sync? What am I to do? Should I sync up that webcam with this stream now and then turn on the VR and it'll be out of sync? Or should I trust that it'll be in sync with the VR and this microphone? It's not this microphone. It's one of these. I don't want to pick it up and move it. I've got a clip-on microphone and it's got a battery pack that goes with it. It's like one of the things we use for filming. So I've got that and I'm using it for the VR. But essentially it goes into the same sound desk and it's an external microphone in the sound desk. They don't shift around. You hear them at the same time when you're, two microphones. You hear them. They're not shifted. Oh, I can't work it out. And you know what it does? It does my head to a point where, so the process, and I know this is not content, this is probably boring. The process though is I do a little thing like I'm doing now, a little bit of recording. I press record instead of streaming. Record it. Look at it in the editor. This is wrong, that's wrong. Tweak it, modify it on OBS, change the settings, do a little bit of record. It's like trial and error. And so I can't keep, it's like banging your head against a brick wall. And I can't have every week a 2-day trial and error session that gets me nowhere, can I? And then you turn it on again and it's just out of sync. How is that? What has happened? I don't know. It's bugging me now. It's in the back of my mind now. It's bugging me. The point that I was trying to do, the whole aim was turn on the stream. It looks a little bit fresher. It looks a little bit sharper. What's going on there? Oh, I've got an improvement for you. It's not that improvement has made everything else go wrong. That's not the plan. You chuffer. Been in the woods today as well. I'll tell you a little story about that. Went to the woods today. Walking the doggy. Now, I know it's winter and winter draws on. Winter draws on. Because winter is coming, winter draws on. But also, winter draws on, like you put your winter pants, underwear on. Because it's cold. Winter draws on. So, that was a quiz team name. We had... At school, we used to have quiz team. I was in a quiz team. I was in a quiz team. I've got some stories about that. But the story I was going to tell, I'll tell you the 3 stories about quiz team, and then we'll move on. The story I was going to tell, first of all, every morning we'd go to chapel at school. It was a boys' school, a bit like Harry Potter, but with boys only. It was. I went to the same school that Shakespeare went to. Not at the same time, but literally the same school that Shakespeare went to. Honest, you can check it out. So, went to chapel in the mornings. It was quite formal. The teacher would be there checking your shoes were shiny and your buttons were done up and you had your tie on. You had your hymn book and your homework diary. And as you walk in, because it was single file as you walk in, everyone would be checked for all these, inspected, and then you'd be knocked off the list. You up to see that you're in trouble, all that business. So you single file, you're in through the prison gates. You're in, and you sit down, you do your singing, a little bit of singing for your God, and then some announcements are read out, and you do a little bit more singing for your God, and some other announcements are read out or something, a reading, and then you're off to school then. You're off to school, ready for your school day. So we used to go into the chapel in the morning and the announcements would be read out. If it was a quiz day, if it was a quiz announcement, the headmaster, old Neville, I didn't call him that to his face, obviously. Sir Old Neville. No, I just called him Sir. Mr. Mellon would read the quiz. So he'd say, in today's quiz at lunchtime, because he'd tell you need to go and at lunchtime in room 3C, the quiz, whatever room it was, the quiz would be on, and today's teams will be Team A versus Team B. So make sure you're there for your quiz. He'd read the thing out. Like, the winners of yesterday's quiz was Team C. They beat Team A by 70 points. Well done. And today it's Team D versus Team E. Just read the announcements for the quiz league. You'd read them over the course of the school year. You'd read the announcements, and we cottoned on. Earlier, when I started school, the quiz team names were quite arbitrary, quite vague. They called something like the Cool Quizzers or the Popcorn Quiz Team, or we used to have an inter-house like Slytherin and Harry Potter, like Harry Potter. We were the Guild and the King's houses. The Guild is the group who financed the school in the early days, the Stratfordian Guild, and the King's house was because the King instigated the grammar school system, I think, by pulling down some monasteries or something, because he was cross about something. Anyway, look, that was a long time ago. I was in Guild, King's, so you might be called the Guild Quiz Champion Team, or the King's Quizzers, or you get your funny name. You'd have your different forms, you do third year quiz league, so I'm a Guild third year team or whatever. You'd have names. But when I was quite young, when I was in the first year of school, the names started to change. First year, second year, the names started to change, because a group of older lads realised that the teacher was reading these out in the morning. Every morning in the chapel, was reading these names out, and it was their opportunity to subvert the narrative. It was their opportunity to get a little private joke going. So what they would do is they'd call their quiz teams by something that was... hang on, I'm going to lean forward now. And now, because I'm leaning forward, in the past I'd just go out of focus. But now we've got this, haven't we? Look at that. So now I'm in focus. Lovely. So they'd call the quiz teams by some quite subtle but quite risque names. Like, one of them was, one of the early ones that went straight through the radar was Winter Draws On. And for about 6 weeks, maybe longer, 6 weeks, maybe longer, maybe a full school year, whenever Winter Draws On would play in the quiz league, the headmaster would stand up in front of the school and say, and later on, Winter Draws On against, another quiz team name. And every time he said Winter Draws On, it'd sound like a little announcement. Put your winter drawers on. He would read it, meaning the winter is drawing on, like a kind of abstract quiz name for a team. And that got a little chuckle going. Winter Draws On. They were known as the school quiz team that that he's in Winter Draws On. They got that little joke in the system. We don't tell people, we know it's a joke. Clever. That started the floodgate opening, right? And the first season that quiz names were banned, the first season that quiz names got banned, and they got banned. We had to become Team A, Team B, Guild 1, Guild 2, Guild 3, Kings 1, Kings 2, Kings 3. The first year that quiz names got banned, I believe there was a chapel assembly in the morning, we just called it chapel. We went to chapel, and there was there's a particular reading, head teacher. I remember it quite clearly. I remember the one name quite clearly. The Purple-Headed Warriors. And the name that really broke the camels, or the headmaster's back or nerve, the headmaster himself, he wasn't an ugly fellow. I always found him to be quite kind, but then I came into the school at the end of his headmastership, and a new headmaster took over. And usually, when they're at the end, they're not so mean, and when they start out new, they're a bit more tough. So I had fond memories of Neville, but not so fond memories of the new fellow that took over, who, in recent years, I was told, ended up not being so tough. But he was quite tough on me. Anyway, the one that really broke the camel's back, though, is he had a little bit of a... I mean, I've got a bit of a nose. He had a bit of a nose. And somebody called their quiz team My Hook Nose. Honestly. They were not content with Winter Draws On, the secret heroes of the school, who got us all chuckling in chapel every morning, or every, other few days whenever they were playing in their quiz team. The team that we all cheered on, Winter Draws On. No, it got worse. My Hook Nose and the Purple-Headed Warriors. The Purple-Headed Warriors managed to make it through a couple of weeks. They managed to make it through a couple of weeks of readings in chapel. I mean, it is quite... It means willies. It means willies. So, that's what they meant by it. There was another one about helmets. It was like a Roman helmet joke that was like the stuff in the top of the helmet. You see, I should know these names of what these things are because I was a quizzer. The purple crested helmet or something crew. That was another one. There's quite a few that was based around willies. He was reading these out in the chapel and he got to My Hook Nose and he read it out. And that was the last... I think that was the one that straw that broke the camel's back, because he physically did... My Hook Nose will be playing against... And, he saw it, he read it, and then, you could see it in him that he wasn't happy about it. Ooh. He didn't like that. He read them. At the end of chapel, what would happen is... This is so mad when I think about this now, actually. I don't know if this still goes on at the school. I don't know if it still goes on at any school. But, not this particular event, but, the concept of the chapel. They're all the teachers, the teachers where they got like caps and gowns. The teachers have got caps and gowns. They own them because they were given them when they graduated from university, like a flat hat with a thing on it. And they're like ceremonial clothes. But at my school, the teachers used to wear those in the morning in chapel. Honest to God. Maybe not the flat hats so much, but the gowns. You're all dressed up in the gowns. So when the head teacher would walk in, we'd all filter in single file in the morning. The organ would be playing. There's another few nice stories about this. My friend Matt used to play the organ. My friend... don't know if I should say people's second names on the internet. Anyway, we'll just say my friend Matt. My friend Matt used to play the organ because he was a talented pianist and organist and was learning the organ. And his teacher, Mr. Dodsworth, used to encourage it. Mr. Dodsworth would play the organ in the mornings, usually. But as Matt got more capable, Mr. Dodsworth would give him the duty and encourage it. That was pretty cool. And sometimes he'd give it a little flair, because when you're playing that organ, you can jazz in a few little notes of your own, a few little chords or keys. Once he played a bit of like the A-Team, subtly in the mix, in the melody, played a bit of the A-Team, and we all loved it. We looked out for those little Easter eggs in the organ playing in the morning as we were filtering in. We filtered in, we sat down, and the main teachers were there, hawk eyes watching over you, but the headmaster himself wouldn't enter the room until the very end. And so you'd all filter in and sit down and like mumbling and muttering, you shush, where's your hymn book? You shush, sit down over there, filter in. And once we were all in, there'd be like a moment, like the organ would be playing, and then it would stop. There'd be a moment's silence. Oh, the organ stopped. And the doors, because we had these old wooden doors, the wooden doors would open, and we'd all have to stand up. We'd all be up. All stand up. And in would walk the headmaster himself, cap and gown, whatever, books. And because they're wearing these gowns, they like flow out behind, they like sweep in down the middle, you know, walking in them, and everyone stood up. I don't know if the organ would continue, or if... I think he might have come in while the organ was playing. No, because we all stood up, didn't we? We all got the cue to stand up. So anyway, then he'd arrive at the top, tell you all to sit down, whatever. So this occasion, when he read out the My Hook Nose, he was sort of, you could see he was mad. He was cross. He didn't used to get very cross. It was the end of his reign. He didn't used to get very cross. He was quite gentle with me and my peers as new members to the school. He didn't used to get that cross, but he had a real, real puss on him, real cross face. You could see he looked red, looked embarrassed and angry. And so when he gathered up his stuff and walked out, the organ started up, we stood, and he just, like, he was down that centre aisle like a rocket, and his gown was flying out. It was kind of scary to me as like a little, because the older you are, the further back you sit, so we were quite near the front. And he was angry, and he swept past, and then, we didn't get to, I think he left, and I think he, the deputy headmaster and him were having their little chat before he even got up into his office. There were people being picked out of as you're leaving in single file, there were people being dragged out. Which quiz team are you in? Get in here, you and you. That was the end of the quiz team names. That was the end of the names. It's a shame, really, because just as we were in our early quiz team careers, we had our names taken off us, and then me and my mates, we formed quite a good quiz team. We did. We won it. We won the school quiz once. I think only once. We did win it though, one season, and we got cheated out of it another couple of times, right? I said about these different houses. Well, one of the teachers ran the quiz. She ran the quiz. It was her sort of her whole shebang. She ran the quiz, but she was of a particular house. You having a bit of chuff? Daddy's going to do your dinner in a minute. Don't need to be chuffing, don't worry. He's chuffing. I think he thinks he can hear some pop-pops. It's alright, Ma. It's just some people doing stuff in a car. It's alright, Engelmar. Come here with your daddy. Yeah, Doggy's back. We can have Doggy Cam back now. Okay. Let Daddy just finish his talking. Let's get the Doggy Cam back. And Daddy's doing a couple of stories about quizzes, and then he's going to feed you your dinner, and then he's going to come back and watch some YouTube videos on the internet. So I am now going to bring the dog cam back. I've got one of those over here. Oh, that's my leg. Moved it then, and it's delayed. See how it's delayed that much? That's a big delay though. That's a huge chunky delay. I think maybe there's something wrong with the webcam. Well, then it would be out of sync with the VR, so we'd have to test that. Maybe I should just use that camera for the VR, but then I'd have to change it and move it every time. Anyway, so the quiz teams, we had these arbitrary names then, G1, G2, G3. The quiz master, the lady who ran it, she used to teach a form in the school. She used to teach maths and was a form mistress. So she had a class of people, and within that class there were kids who she saw every morning. She taught them for maths as well. They were in her class, and they formed a quiz team, and we were in a quiz team in the opposite house. We were from the opposite side. So me and my mates, I don't think we got a fair crack at the whip. When we were competing against kids that were in her class, and she was the arbitration between us. We had these buzzers, and these buzzers were made by the technology department at the school as like a school project. So there were these big long plastic box, like a big long, it was like a piece of guttering with little lights. She had the box of lights, we had the box of buttons. They were like long buttons, anyway, like made by the technology lab. What would happen is you'd press your buzzer and it'd go, yeah, and the light would come on, great. But sometimes, if you all pressed your buzzers at the same time, or somebody else pressed one over there, sometimes all the lights would come on, or some of the lights would come on. It wasn't consistent. So she'd just pick, basically. And quite often, we got buzzed out. We missed our buzzer. Just, I was like, I've been pressing this. We need to test it. We're not testing it. It works. Get on with it. All this business. I felt we got buzzed out a couple of times. And there was a couple of times what would happen is you'd be so keen, so eager, that you'd hammer your buzzer, you'd hear the thing, you'd see your light come up, you'd say your answer, but she'd say no. The other light came up as well. We're not taking your answer. It's got to go over to the other team, and they'd say your answer. And you'd be like, no, cheating. So that would happen. That really used to wind me up. So at these quiz meets, I was already quite wound up. Midway through a quiz meet, a bit on edge about them. I wanted to win. And there was this once where, this is my final bit of story about the quiz teams. I don't know how we got onto this. There's this once where the question, now bear in mind, at this point, I was representing Great Britain and England at fencing. I was quite competent and not yet decorated, but competent and frequent fencer. I did a lot of fencing. The question was, what sport takes place on a piste? Oh my god, those ginger tablets. No, I just eating ginger tablet and ginger root, and when you breathe it in, it hits your throat. I was quite competent at fencing. I knew the answers. Right, buzz. I was first this time. Waiting for it. Yes, fencing takes place on a piste. That's the answer. Fencing. It does take place on a piste. It does. That's the truth. You can look it up. And she said, no, the answer is skiing. And I'm like, well, one answer is skiing, yeah. I won't say no. I'll agree with you. Fine, you are the teacher. But also the answer is fencing. And then there were other people on the team. The answer is fencing. Like, fencing is right. And she was like, no, I'm not going to take that from you because it's not the answer on the card. And that really, that was... I think I even walked out of that one. I think that was the end of my quizzing. I think I walked out on that one. To not accept a correct answer. It's just impure... we're kids. We're young people at the quiz team. You're the teacher. To not accept a correct answer, it just made me feel so... she got some sort of chip on her shoulder. We were never going to win. I was like, chuff this then. What more can I do than give you the correct answers? Yeah. That was the quiz. That was the school. That was the quiz team names. I don't know how we got onto that. And what we're supposed to be getting onto today, I was just talking about content. I was talking about the quality of the stream. I'm really pleased. I'm really glad that we're improving it. I'm a bit tired. I've been working on it and things keep going wrong behind the scenes. It's one of those things, I don't know. Things aren't going that wrong. Things are all right. We're pushing towards the future. We're going to have a difficult Christmas as a family in a way, but as another way, we're going to try and get through it and have the best time. And in the new year, I want to have people sat in this room. I've also thought, I've also thought about going back to Zoom, because we did do an interview, didn't we, over Zoom, and I wasn't pleased with the quality of it. I looked at it as a good thing, but I think what has to happen with Zoom, I'll just quickly spit this out while I'm chatting it, is that the other people on the other end have to have a good quality camera and microphone. Not necessarily camera, but microphone and connection, because you can't control, and the camera as well, you can't control the quality of the media if you're doing a Zoom call and at their end it's not a good microphone or not a good sound or not whatever. You can't control that, and I worry as well that it, drop a signal or internet goes or whatever. Suddenly your interview's done and you spend a lot of time preparing and you've got this person, and they're giving you your time and anyway. But people might be more free and easy to do Zoom calls than they would be to come here. But yeah, so Zoom has to be considered again, and if I can get people who already have good microphones or whatever. The other thing is that I don't want to start a podcast and have on the podcast channel itself high quality, filmed with a nice camera in a nice room with nice lighting, good microphones, conversation, edited, good quality podcast, sat next to 6 or 8 Zoom calls where the internet stutters and cuts out. I think if you start looking at the channel as a whole, I'd like it to seem, because I'm a media producer, bottom line, and I know I can do a reasonable job on certain aspects. So I want it to seem professional, don't I? So I don't know. I've seen good podcasters using Zoom and adding to their content that way. Maybe I want to keep the Zoom to the stream and have the podcast somewhere, looking nice, separate. I don't know. But I do think we can get back to Zoom, because I have actually seen a few people doing good Zoom conversations that, whilst I don't consider them podcasts, they're labelled as podcasts, and they're nearly podcasts, aren't they? I don't know what you'd call it. Another way to do it would be to have the Zoom conversations and then edit them into a podcast. Talk about the conversations with other people live in the room, using the edited sections of the Zoom calls as little things to look at and talk about. I don't know. All to come. All things for me to think about. So what I wanted to do today, actually, to test the settings to make sure this was all in sync, which is chuffing well not. Don't know what's wrong with that camera, but my voice is, and these videos should be. So that's our YouTube channel. I haven't said this at the start. I always forget to do that. Ganji Kid, we're on YouTube, and we've got all these edits. Ganji Cuts, Ganji Kid Art Chat. They've both recently got new videos on them. Have a look at them. Ganji Clips if you want the Clips channel. And Battery Exhausted is my old channel. And True by Norn ASMR. I need to do a new ASMR video sometime soon. That's all worth looking at on YouTube. And what we're going to look at on YouTube, here's an audio video. Should be in sync. That's what I've been looking at a lot. But what I wanted to do is look at my watch later list and just watch and react to some things, so that later on I can edit it and see that it's all working and see that everything's in sync. And it's Sunday and we're chilling, and that seems like a good idea. So that's my watch later list. We'll pick off a few choices. Got some serious ones. Got like John Cleese talking freedom of speech. I don't know if I agree with his opinions, so I thought it might be interesting. Some short, interesting ones that I think are interesting, like square root of any number, vehicle recording for modern games. That's not short. That's an hour long. Tough questions to improve your leadership. 26 minutes. But you've also got like this marching band, and I don't read the Japanese or the Chinese or the Korean, but I love a marching band, so I thought but at the same time I like being in Chicago's most violent gang area at night, so maybe that would be so I should publish my watch later list and you should vote on them. Watched some of these, and it doesn't remove it from your watch later list when you've watched it, which is weird, isn't it? But yeah, so we're going to do that now. But what's going to actually happen now is I'm just going to go over there and feed the dog. I'm not even going to turn off the stream, because usually I'd turn it off and turn it back on. I'm not going to, just going to feed the dog nice and chuffy. 5 minutes, because he needs it, because it's his time. And I'll be back in 1 minute. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Just 1 minute. And 1-2, chuffy chuffy 1-2. One other thing that happened today, actually, as I noticed that we've only got 10% of battery left, is that the camera that that's such a good point. Hang on. Batteries in the charger. Oh no, what did that? Oh, it is. So that was the battery charger. What I did, what a stupid me. You can hear me, can't you? Check if you want to. I used the camera and it's got batteries. I use it to stream. And another improvement I wanted to make was I don't want to have to keep changing the batteries when they run out. That's fixable. It's just a little mechanical battery thing that you plug in and it plugs into the plug in the hole in the wall. You know, it's like a phone charger battery thing. I ordered one off the internet, cheap, 10 bucks, cheap. Plugged it into the camera, wouldn't turn on. Then I plugged the camera back into its normal battery and it wouldn't turn on. And it said incompatible battery. And I was like, hang on, this is a problem because this is your old battery, which is definitely compatible. And now if you won't turn on, I can't have a stream. So we fixed it just by turning it off and on again, changing the battery again, changing it again. But the thing I plugged in at the wall doesn't work. But I'm going to get one. I have to spend more money than the $10 and get a nicer one that won't break the camera. But until then, I'm going to have to change the battery in 8%. So having prepared for this moment, no, usually I am prepared, but because I've been doing this stuff, moving wires, unplugging things, moving things, you know, all that business, I thought I don't need this battery charger anymore, don't need these spare batteries, got this plugged in. So that's going to be an issue. 7%. We'll see what happens. When we plug the new battery in, it will just work, won't it? And we'll just be happy. And it will just, fingers crossed, the second battery will just work. 7%. This one's annoying. Jurassic Park, but with a cat. That was a video that I thought, oh look, that's interesting, that's going to go viral. And I clicked it to put on watch later, and then it went viral. So it's too late now. It's already had like 2 billion views. So remove that. I wanted to do this. This is a 23-minute video. 23-minute. And there's an Elon Musk 1 minute 52 video game recommendations. I don't know if I feel in the mood to chuff along about video games. If you're in chat and you want to see a particular thing, now is your time. Now is the time. Now is the time. You're not. Damn it! I've got something tickly in my nose. Like tickly. I want to put my finger in my nose so bad. But I'm on the internet and I don't want to put my finger in my nose. I don't want to pick my nose online. Oh, chuff. Oh, chuff it. Yeah, I'm not in the... It's Sunday. You know, it's Sunday. I'm not in the hyper chuff mood to do some hyper chuffing. So, I don't know if I want... Like, certain things, I think to myself, oh, that would be good for stream. We'll do that together. You don't have all the time in the world. You don't realise. You don't have... I say this, you know, I've just been to the funeral of my 19-year-old relative. Not today, but you know, recently. Of course, you don't have as much time as you realise. Yeah, it can all be snapped so quick, so short. But you kind of feel, oh, you've got these. You know, next year I'm going to this, and need to fill up time during the week when you're streaming, don't you? Time fills itself up. Get the dog walked, bath him. Can you just do this? Can we borrow your car for that? Can you look after this? Here's my dog. Look, time just seems to tick away, doesn't it? But I do these watch laters, and I get video games queued up and say that's going to be good for us on stream. That's going to be the right sort of thing. And then we don't seem to get the time. I make other things chuff on for ages, and I don't end up doing exactly what I thought I was going to. Like in Green Hell as well, I am adamant that we're going to get the YouTube working for gaming. It seems silly because Twitch is the place for gaming, isn't it? But I'm going to get the... Am I in focus? I'm going to sit back a bit. So let's sit where I want to sit. Let's get used to doing it this way. Sit where I want to sit. And then let's focus me. you go. It's that easy. Don't have to mess around like over there anymore, holding my hand up like this and manually doing that. Anyway, welcome to the modern world, Scotty Hottie. I got confused. I got waylaid. Yeah, and I don't end up doing exactly what I think I should. Oh, like Green Hell, YouTube gaming. We need a presence on YouTube as a streamer. We've got a presence on YouTube as a YouTuber already, and the facility to just go live is great. Then the video will automatically be on the YouTube VODs page, and then I can take that and edit it if I want to. Seems like, well, why don't you just stream on Twitch and use YouTube for your videos? And we need to do some streaming on both. YouTube's going to grow as a streaming platform. We want a foothold on that. We want the algorithm to recognise us as a streamer on YouTube. So we're going to do that. And like I said, to get it started, we're just going to try and do the gameplay. So thus far, I've started off a game on stream, done the overview, the chat. Sometimes we finish a game. If we're not finished it, I say, oh, we'll put that on the YouTube. We'll do that on a Tuesday and a Thursday. I can just turn on the computer, just play a game on YouTube. Don't have to worry about the editing and the planning and the stuff like that. Gameplay stream, great. Have I managed to make YouTube work? Not yet, no. But this week, behind the scenes, what you haven't seen is that I've learned about, I've been informed about, I've read about the difference between software encoding and hardware encoding, which to me, like as a layperson, I'm like, but hang on, doesn't the software just use the hardware to do the encoding? So, like, it's all happening in that magic box, that computer box over there. It's all happening in that box. But apparently, and again, this isn't content, but this is, I don't know, I just feel like the mood I'm in is feeling like informing the people who contribute, people who push this forward alongside me, the Ganjipuka Warrior crews, informing them of what I've been doing, because I feel a little bit guilty that I've not been providing well-researched, at least somewhat researched content with some meaning that's not just chuffing along in gameplay. Chuffing along gameplay is good. There's nothing wrong with doing a bit of chuffing. I'm doing a bit of chuffing now. Gameplay's good. Doing a bit of gameplay, it sparks ideas and it's good. But I also wanted to have, like I said, this regular, not just Mental Health Monday, which we plan and then talk about, but another regular stream, at least one a week, where I've done some subject planning, brought some concepts up to have a conversation about, to then, involve you in and think a way through a thing. You know what I'm saying? We've done a few videos like that, the art chats, the reviews. So this week, though, instead of doing that, learned about this stuff, this H264 and a 26X, whatever settings. My computer can either process it through its processor, or it can and it's got some cores and things that are beefy, but it's also doing all this stuff on my screen at the same time and all this other stuff. But it's got a graphics card, and it's designed for editing my computer so that it can handle it. So now I've told it, look, hardware encoding, do it on the graphics card, mate. And what should have happened, and I don't know about, I'm always going, oh, the kilobytes are up, and oh, the kilobytes, we're not getting the kilobytes, the stream's not working. What should be happening now is the consistency and the quality up. Now that's not a thing you can see and measure so easy. I know I've got a new lens that's going to complicate it, but consistency and quality up. And again, it's this stuff like this preparation, this hibernation preparation month, where I don't have any great big goals other than to be ready and be prepared for next month, which I think is a good goal. I think that's a good goal, because there's little tweaks, aren't there? There's little things. Other than the big computer, with what we've got now, there's a few little tweaks. We're getting there. That's cool. So with that in mind, I'm going to have to change the battery again. This one went wrong this week, didn't it? So if this goes wrong and it doesn't let me work the camera again, we're going to find out now. Please. That's promising. That's very promising. That's worked. Good. So, because earlier on, this battery said it wouldn't. It said no. What did it say? It said battery not compatible or incompatible battery. That was an incompatible battery. I'm just like, mate, I've been using this incompatible battery for years now. Right, autofocus. Lock. Look at that. Huge leaps and bounds forwards, that is really. So we're going to do some watch. Let's watch with Mother then. Let's have a little bit of watch with Mother. And let's hopefully this watch with Mother session, an hour into the stream. So what we're supposed to do. This is another thing I need to learn to do. I need to not do all this chuffing. It's just all the stuff that was on my mind, that was. That was just all the stuff that was on my mind. That's not a broadcast. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm apologising for my quality of my broadcast. Not the quality. The quality's better, but it was on my mind, so I just spoke about it. It's not content. Although I've watched a lot of streamers talk about their streams, like, you know, the meta concept of them talking about how they're streaming, and I've learned a lot. So I don't know, but it's not content. I'm not the streamer that's there talking about my camera. That's not what I'm supposed to be doing. It's not a camera show, is it? It's not a camera show, buddy. Everything's a camera show, isn't it? Because it all comes through the camera. What we're supposed to be doing, and let's switch to, this is going to be smooth now. Look, switched. I'm just holding my smoking in front of the camera, so that was really smooth. That's not what I meant. Is we're supposed to be going to the WebBubba browser like that. That's just a picture of my smoking hand. Bad. Oh, look, I'm allowed to smoke in the room today, and I'm taking full advantage. So, kids smoking is bad. It's not cool. It tastes horrible, and vaporizing it is much better. Vaping, I've got a vape. It's in the other room. It's just that I just don't get me started. I touched the microphone, then I hope it hasn't buggered it up. Don't get me started. Right, this is going to work. What do you want? Let's do Elon Musk. Let's do Elon Musk first. Let's do Elon Musk. See, now am I spoiling this? Should I do this when I'm in a buoyant mood, or will it just buoy my mood? Because I could do this in a buoyant mood, and I might really riff off it, or this might just come out wrong.
I'm looking for a new video game to play. Can you give me a recommendation?
Overwatch.
I play Overwatch.
Yeah, it's
Anything
great.
else?
Hang on. Pausing it straight away. Overwatch. Overwatch is his recommendation. So he must play Overwatch, do you assume? Or maybe he's got some money tied up in Blizzard. I don't know. When we went on that video game retreat, when we went to Stugan and created the film that I really am longing to show you, that's going to have to, you know, join in to the content soon. Keep talking about the content. When I went to Stugan in the Swedish woodlands, guest of Tommy Palm, creator of Candy Crush, there with 15 teams of indie developers all creating video games, making a film about it. When I was there, they played Overwatch together. They had two separate teams within the groups. Like they had a team that was creating a game called Puppet Fever, which is on the Oculus system, I think. Puppet Fever, virtual reality game, and they played Overwatch. And then they had another group that were made up of people from different countries that had come to the group. They played Overwatch as a team, like they were playing Overwatch. So that was interesting. I was exposed to Overwatch for the first time there, I think. Or it might have been CSGO. Maybe it was CSGO. Maybe it was CSGO. I definitely saw somebody playing Overwatch in the team when I was there. And up to this point, I know now all about Overwatch and what's going on with Overwatch. But up to that point, I sort of saw it as a Call of Duty clone for the new generation. Like, when I say the new generation, there was this moment, wasn't there, in the growth of video games where Xbox went live and you could talk to each other online, PlayStation as well. Suddenly that was a thing that you could do. Call of Duty was quite big at the time, and the multiplayer aspect of Call of Duty was really quite popular, and you know, it was the game of its time, Call of Duty Online. And so I wasn't really big into that game and that experience. And then when I saw other first-person shooters, group maps, it just felt similar, so I didn't really veer towards it. But Overwatch has since... there's another angle to come at this, but I'll say it in a minute. But Overwatch has since impressed me in lots of ways. Its accessibility, and I mean, I've not played a lot of it, but the accessibility and the way that you can have different play styles and feel like you're part of the team and contributing toward the greater goal. I actually thought that Splatoon was really good for that. Splatoon, because you can just ink up the area, or you can go out and try and get kills. You can do different things to help your team and not be... in Fortnite, being really good at building and killing, that's the main thing. And if you encounter someone who's good at those things, you don't have many other options on how to beat them. But with something like Splatoon, the aim is to ink the entire area, so you might not be that good at killing, and you might not be the best at certain more traditional mechanics of first-person shooter games, but you can still help your team to achieve the objective in quite an effective and efficient way. So Overwatch has an element of that in it. You've got different skills with different characters. You can be a bit more defensive, you can be a bit more supportive if you're not the main killer. It's interesting that Elon's into that. It's a team game. So I wonder if Elon plays... I mean, when he's recommending these things as well, like I said, I'll come at this other angle for a second. That Elon's recommending things. Elon's a money thinker, isn't he? So if he's got money in a particular pie, he will give this opportunity to advertise it and see the shares go up and rake it in. Or he might give us his objective, honest answers about video games. But Blizzard, they're a murky company. One of the things, I used to play a lot of Hearthstone, and when I first started streaming, I thought I was going to be a Hearthstone streamer. But then this whole thing kicked off where they changed the game a bit. In a way, it was good they changed the game a bit. Battle Pass, I don't know, that was looking all right. And then I thought, oh no, hang on, looking into the future, I could see this business plan of more mobile-oriented, more microtransaction, and it was already quite heavy on the addictive microtransaction, not loot box card packs, but complete that collection. I used to spend quite a lot of money on the bundles because I thought they were good value, but really, they're only creating their own set of value by inflate. Like, if they say the cards cost this much per pack and then they give you half price, well, if you just said the cards were half price forever, then that would be okay as well, wouldn't it? Why do you have to... The bundle is just like an invented concept based on their own invented concept of what they say the cards are worth. So I started to get down about that. I couldn't really afford, or what's the word? Not just that I couldn't afford it, but I couldn't reason to myself that it was acceptable to be spending that money on that. I couldn't justify it, is the word. And then I played a bit of free-to-play, felt, they do these things with these new... I'm going off on Blizzard now, all of a sudden, on Hearthstone. This is a different video that I should make because I got feelings and thoughts about it, but I'll just give you the brief overview. Is that they make the game broken, they release a new card set, it's broken, it beats everything in the game. Oh, there's even a bug that means you can win every game if you've just got this particular card, and so you're like, oh, I'm going to get into the game now because I've played Hearthstone before, it's tough to rank up on the ladder and all that, but here's a side exit, here's a shortcut to victory, and all I have to do is get these new cards and I can be in at the early stage and beat these people and run through the ladder. And some of us have made Legend with a broken deck just because it's a new mechanic that's broken that Hearthstone haven't yet nerfed. And does it feel great to do that? I don't know. Does it? I don't know. Feels like you're getting a bit of a cheat code, because it's tough sometimes normally when it's balanced and whatever. Yeah, great. And I think that encourages people to come back to or pick up Hearthstone. A lot of interest, a lot of wow. So I think they actually do it deliberately. I think they make the game a bit broken and they try and pull it back into line with nerfs and things. But it disappointed me as well, because I'm like, I want to play. I like the deck building concept of logically having a clever concept that you create your deck around, and working out your probabilities of drawing certain cards, and therefore how many of certain things should you have in the deck, all that. But even that's become so much more prescribed now, because they say these are the deck archetypes, we've made some cards that really narrowly fit this, and obviously you're going to use those cards. So in terms of creative deck building, you're using the cards they obviously want you to use, and then there's maybe 3 or 4 choices that you can make. So I like it when there's more choices, when the cards are more general and less specific, and you can make more choices and have a bit more variety and maybe come up with something new and interesting. But there's less option to do that these days, not just because the meta gets solved by people online telling you what the best deck is, but because Hearthstone themselves create the cards with less flexibility, more specific application, so that each archetype every season is a bit more, like I said, a bit more prescribed. So there's less deck building, creation, fun. And then the actual ladder system, you know, the playing online, it gets depressing when you're losing to random number generation or to broken mechanics. And, you know, I'm paying heavily through the nose for an addiction that I feel really committed to, and it's making me feel bad. So that was Hearthstone for me. And then they introduced mercenaries, and at the same time they were going through this I'm switching to big face. I should have said it all on big face. At the same time as releasing mercenaries, they were going through this problem with World of Warcraft itself, their main flagship game, being less popular. And of course they had a court. I haven't got all the details online. You know, I've looked at them a lot, but I'm not an expert in the American legal system. But essentially, they were being taken to court by a government agency for bad things in the workplace, like sexual discrimination, like sexual assault, like, you know, workplace practice of a frat house, boys club, workplace practice. This other guy, Bobby Kotick, the fact that Activision bought into Blizzard, and Bobby Kotick, the Wolf of Wow Street, is their chief exec. You know, there's a lot of murky things going on behind the scenes there, and that's where your money's going. Like, they're charging me all that bad, expensive money, and if it's a small indie company and I want to support them and I think they're doing a great job, great. But really, they're pumping out these cards. Like, I can't even get used to using the cards before there's a new set. You know, I haven't even explored all the different archetypes and played a bit as priest and played a bit as mage and moved up the ladder and done some warrior. I haven't had time to do that before the next cards are onto me and I need to shell out another $200. Give us your money, give us your money. And I think they should print fewer cards over the course of the year. Maybe have 1 or 2 interesting legendaries more frequently, but fewer cards over the year. 1 or 2 interesting legendaries can shake up the meta, and then, you know, more consistency. Anyway, that's what I'd want, but that's not what's happening. They want your money. They've got Wolf of Wow Street in charge, who looks at all the most predatory practices they can get. You know, how does this make them feel? Are they going to spend? What's going to happen? And they want your money. They want the whales, and they want your little micro transactions. And now they introduce mercenaries at the same time as you find out about this disgusting workplace that, you know, I wouldn't give money to those people that were running that show. I feel bad for the people that were working there. They should quit and go and work somewhere better. You know, I know it sounds, you should quit and work somewhere better, but honestly, rather than saying, give them the money, give Blizzard the money because there are good people at Blizzard, you know, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, but they don't have to stay at Blizzard. Like, and nor should they if there's been this legal thing and they've got legal grounds to, you know. And what Blizzard did is they paid to make that go away. They just paid money so that they'd stop the legal case, you know, would pay to settle out of court. But that doesn't help the people who were, like, wrapped up in it. Like, if you were abused at work at Blizzard and they went to court and got found guilty, then you might be able to say, I was abused at Blizzard, they found guilty, right, I want my compensation, I want my thing. But if they just pay to make it go away, how do you then put your hand up and say, where's my compensation? Well, we're not guilty, we paid to make it go away. Shut up. I don't know how it works really, but I don't like it and I don't want to give them my money. So there's another reason for quitting Hearthstone. And that's the same. Why am I saying all this? Because Overwatch is Blizzard, isn't it? Overwatch is Blizzard. So I don't know if he's promoting a company whose shares... I mean, does he know Bobby Kotick? I don't know. Was Overwatch at the time, January 2017, was it big, or was it having a big launch, or was he, you know... sometimes you look at these things, who produced this? Y Combinator. I don't know who Y Combinator is. They probably just cut this from something else, didn't they? But was this a promotional thing made to promote Blizzard. I don't know. People just look at things at face value, right? I watched a YouTube video about COVID information from a doctor the other day, and in the comments there were comments about people who were just saying random, like one person said, my friend had a vaccine and then a couple of days later they had a heart attack, so it was the vaccine gave them a heart attack. And that was like one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in a comment for a number of reasons. One of the reasons was because like there's so many people every year have heart attacks. Like if you look into how many people have heart attacks every year, it's really high, because it's one of the main killers. It's like heart disease is one of the big main killers of people. Really common to see people having a heart attack. And if everyone has a vaccine, or they should, but maybe they didn't. But like let's say in our country we've had 70-80% of people had a vaccine. Well, quite a few of those will also have a heart attack. It's just statistically not just probable, but certain, because there's a certain number who are going to have heart attacks, and they will overlap with their vaccine. They'll get a vaccine, and then a couple of days later they'll have a heart attack. If they didn't have the vaccine, they were still going to have the heart attack. But people say, oh, it's the vaccine did it. I don't know if you've ever stood by the roads and, the lights, walk, don't walk, green man, red man. Yeah. Some people have a system where if you press it and then press it, or press it 3 times really fast, they think it will change for them. Or when they might flash their lights when they're driving at the lights, it will change for me. What happened is, once they did that, and it just so happened that the timing was right and it changed. Because they do change. They do that, all they do every day is change. So if you go up to it and press this tap, 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 tap at the right time, it's going to look like you did it. Now, if you think you did it, you're going to go around tap, 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 tap. Oh, it didn't work this time. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, it did this time. Because eventually it will again, won't it? And you're going to convince yourself it was that. It wasn't that. It's just coincidence, and you're a bit of an idiot. So these people were commenting about this thing about, vaccines and heart attacks. There's a thing, conversations we had about it. This is not the conversation we're having. But one of the things that blew my mind was that there was some people replying to this. Now, we've just taken it as read that whoever made that comment was really commenting that because it's really what happened to their friend. They had a heart attack. It's possible that that comment was just made by a political bot. It's possible that comment was made by someone who's paid by a political group to make comments, isn't it? If you're Donald Trump and you're running your big campaign and you want to influence what people think on the internet, then you'd probably want to have like loads of people making comments, saying things. Same with the British government. Same with every forum that's popular. Like the BBC Have Your Say section is populated by predominantly right wing, because the Conservatives have got more money and do more underhand, dodgy things behind the scenes. But they're probably paid for people in Nigeria or Sri Lanka or somewhere like that. A separate entity to provide real people that will make these comments, that will push a certain narrative in a certain way. So that could happen. Or it could just be an internet troll. It could be an idiot, trying to make people think things that aren't real or troll them. And, it's a doctor's channel, so they're on there saying, silly things that a doctor wouldn't believe. Maybe get the rise out of someone like me. Oh, don't be silly. People have heart attacks. They have heart attacks. It's not, now I'm angry and, maybe it's a troll. You don't know. The bottom line is, you don't know a chuff about, unless they've got their face, when we go in the comments, unless they've got their, this is Arnav Jain here. Innocent comment. Could be anybody that could. Could be a fake name, could be a fake account. Unless they've got their actual face like I have. Unless you can go on their channel and see them actually talking and being themselves, links to their email, and unless you can corroborate that they're a real person and that they have their own views and thoughts. It might not even be a real person with it, and even if it is a real person, they could just be telling lies. My friend had a heart attack yesterday. Did they? Oh wow, well I just said it. No, they didn't. Yeah. So what baffled me was that on that video about the heart attacks and the COVID, I knew this had happened today. I'd just go chuffling. What bothered me was that these people were talking back to them as if it was just God's honest truth. Oh, I'm sorry that happened to your friend. People need to get the word out more. Stuff like that, anti-vaxxers. But, and I could confirm they were real people because I could see they, and like I said, I can follow click your name, click the face. Oh, you've got a channel. What have you put on it? A load of rubbish. But you're real. The fact that they were replying and having a conversation with these people meant that they just believed it. They didn't do what I did then when I was thinking and say, could it be real? Do you check? Do you click the face and see if it's someone real? Do you need any sort of corroborative evidence to say their friend had a heart attack, or do you just believe it? I mean, I grew up in a world where we used 4chan when I was a kid, and just as memes, just as fun, just for looking at the most horrible things you can possibly find on the internet, just for pornography, just for dodgy political opinions. I used 4chan, and on 4chan, when somebody said something controversial or a bit remarkable, there's this pics or it didn't happen was a phrase that used to come out, and they used to make people take photographs as well. If you say I am so and so and I'm sitting in Chicago, they say, all right, send me the newspaper from Chicago, today's newspaper, with you, with a picture, get a Sharpie pen, a particular item that we can ask you that you might have, write something, so you can corroborate that this is truly who you're talking to. Pics or it didn't happen. Now, on the YouTube comments, they're like, oh, my friend had a heart attack, the vaccine's bad. And these people are like, absolutely, it did it? Oh, this was terrible for you. I'm going to filter that into my brains. Then they're going to go around the next day. I read, somebody told me, they're not going to say I read it on a YouTube comment because it sounds stupid. They'll just say somebody told me their friend had a heart attack. And you go, really? Oh, yeah, this information's going around now. Where did it start? Are you not even, and you know that they're not even reading into it and checking it and verifying it. They're just taking it as truth. Something that somebody, not even in a video, something somebody said in a comment on a YouTube video, easily could have been fake, troll, whatever. They just take it, they're believing in it and taking it as read because they're replying to them and talking to them. Because they're there. Like, I could bring up the video now and show, I'm not going to, I can't be asked, but they're replying to them and talking to them as if they're real people. That's a dangerous thing to do online if you're not that mentally capable of, if you're not going to think through those layers, if you're going to just say, right, Arnav Jain, who, let's be fair, could be real, interviewer, all right, we're done, Elon, we're done when I say we're done, that could be a social media company that has got a bot, like a robot account, like a fake computer program that just comments a popular thing on, like, they could comment that on every Elon Musk video for popularity reasons as a bot. That could be that, or it could be a real person. You don't know, and you can't know. I can click his thing, doesn't have any content, doesn't have any videos, doesn't have any playlists, doesn't have any favourite channels, hasn't written anything in the about, has been online since 2017. That's it. One subscriber. Why have they got a subscriber if they haven't got any content? That's a bit weird. But that's all you can glean from that.
I'm looking
And
for
it's
a
a
new video
weird
game. Can you
name.
give me a recommendation?
Arnav Jain. Sorry if it is your name. It's not a common name, I should say. I don't mean to say it's weird. It's not a common name. And they haven't got a profile picture. So what is that? Why have they bothered to comment on social? It's a social media, bear in mind. This is a social media. So when I've got a comment, it's got my face on it. It leads to my page. Why am I bothering commenting? Because I'm saying something cheeky or funny that the other people on the social media might appreciate or chat about. Maybe I've got an opinion that no, hang on. Heart attacks happen commonly. Maybe I want to say that. So it's a social media. Why do you want people to see what you're saying if it's not you and you haven't got your name and your face, and if it's just into the air for no reason? That's strange, isn't it? Maybe you can build an account of comments and likes and things and then actually put something on it later, and you'll already have all these people that click like on it, and I don't know how it works. I don't know what it's about. But Arnav Jain's got their thing going, and it might be real and it might not. But if you said, Arnav Jain, my friend had a heart attack, and you're the idiot who's going, oh, Arnav, I'm so sorry to hear that. We should put the word out more. I'm putting this on my log of evidence against the vaccine or whatever. It doesn't matter if it's about heart attacks. If Arnav Jain said, my dog's got an extra long tail, and you're like, oh, my dog's got a long tail too, Arnav. Stop, wait. Who the chuff are these people that you're talking to? And are the things they're saying just totally fabricated for other reasons, for other dynamics than you realise? If you're just chatting to them on the internet, and I can show you that you're just chatting to them on the internet, then you've already outed yourself as a bit of an idiot. in a way. And then cue people going around finding me and my comments talking to people on the internet as if they're real. Cue that. I mean, there is the other aspect where you could be creating, you don't have to believe that they're real. It's just the things they say need to be kept, like, oh, the heart attack thing. Oh, well, actually, I should show other people that read it a counterpoint by arguing with it. Even if I don't believe it's real, argue with it. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But certainly what I saw was that people were believing the things that they were presented in the media and the social media. Not just the media now, because the media has to be held to account for different reasons. If it is an advert, you have to say it's an advert in our country, even though this is somebody else ripping this off somebody else's content. So maybe they didn't bother because they don't have any accountability at all. But, if it's a social media comment, there's none of that. Not in the comments. There's no accountability to prove who's what. So I've done my little rant about people believing things online. I don't believe Elon Musk's video game recommendation is the game he loves. Because he's Elon Musk, isn't he? He's into all this money finance. He's into all these stock market shenanigans.
Overwatch.
I play Overwatch.
Yeah, it's
Anything
great.
else?
Um,
Overwatch is
See, now he's thinking. So maybe he was just in there to say Overwatch, and now he's actually got to have a chat.
amazing.
Overwatch is amazing. Yeah, generally Blizzard does great stuff.
See? What did I say? I'm glad we had this little chat about, what I was talking about. Because generally, Blizzard makes great stuff now. I mean, is he trying to tell us that he's a World of Warcraft player? Or is he honestly just promoting Blizzard? It's 2017, so this is before all the horrors came out.
Well, there's Hearthstone.
I haven't tried that one yet.
Yeah,
I know people love it.
that's what my kids play the most, is Hearthstone.
All right.
Also from Blizzard.
I will check that out tonight.
That's interesting. It's what his kids play. This is 2017, but it's what his kids play the most. I'd love it if I could play Hearthstone against Elon Musk. I'd love it. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? But why are you hunting for focus, camera? Hang on. Just lock on, thank you. Elon Musk's kids. I bet they can. I bet they've got a full collection. I wonder if he makes them play free to play, or if he just buys them every card as they come out. I wonder that. I bet they've got it all in gold.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the time. I know you
All
got
right.
to get going.
Cool. Do you play anything besides Overwatch? I mean,
Unbelievable that was. He just asked him that one question, and then he was like, "Thanks for that. I've got to get going." So it feels like that's just an advert for Blizzard, doesn't it? Unless this was cut from a much longer interview. Why would you just have 10 seconds about video games? 20 seconds. So 27 seconds video game recommendation. That's because, I'll tell you why that is. That's because 27 seconds is the perfect length for social media posts, isn't it? You go over 27 seconds, maybe it's a bit too long for a Twitter thing. So they want it to be Elon Musk's video game recommendation in 27 seconds, and his recommendation is Overwatch, Blizzard, Hearthstone. That's what they got. And then he throws it back at him. Now we're having a little chat. Now it's real.
have you tried the new
You know
Deus
that-
Ex?
Have you tried the new DSX? So now it's a totally different game. So it's not Blizzard he's got in his mind at all. Now he's actually thinking about
I have
something
tried the new
else.
Deus Ex.
It's okay, but like
The best game I played recently, and it's not a super new game, is The Last of Us.
oh, is it
It's
really?
from a couple of years ago.
That game's awful, mate. I got it on the PlayStation. I bought the chuffer just to play it because everyone said how good it was. And it's awful. It's like on rails, and it doesn't let you... Like, if you don't do what it wants, it's like you're dead, go back to the start.
Sure.
I loved it.
Okay, Last of Us.
Yeah.
You like that too? Is it really good?
Uncharted 2.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Uncharted.
I was just. I've
Really,
never
The
seen
Last of Us
storytelling
great-
like that in a video
I mean,
game.
honestly, I think that's really neglected. I mean, that's the criticism I've heard of the latest Deus Ex is the storytelling is kind of lame. And like, whereas the prior Deus Ex and the original Deus Ex was the storytelling was amazing. I don't know if anybody's played. Did you play the original Deus Ex?
So he really likes Deus Ex. That's his game. Why is he going on about Blizzard?
That was killer.
Yeah, that was.
As games have become more like the replacement for the NFL, I think the storytelling just gets generally neglected. So
Yeah.
it was like especially striking to play one that was like absolutely cinematic
Yeah.
storytelling.
as games get more as a substitute for the NFL, the storytelling gets less compelling. That was a weird thing to say. Like, there's different genres of games, and it's not replacing the NFL, is it? Like, the people that like American football aren't now instead watching gameplay. But what's happening is we're growing a new industry of esport, and it's following in the same sort of footsteps in the West. Okay, so here's another brilliant conversation just come out of this. In the East, in Japan, Korea, where they don't have such a long history of westernized sporting franchises, where westernized sporting franchises were introduced, but the Japanese baseball league and the J League in football is not as strong and competitive as the Western leagues. The other traditions they have, the different traditions, have led to esports being much more popular, much more quickly over there. They fill stadia in Korea with esports, whereas we're not quite on their level over here. But, we've got esports, they exist, and we've also got an already quite profitable and dominant system of franchise sports. So what seems to be happening is the people who already own and run, like, football, not American football, British football, kicking the ball around football, is owned by companies who own the TV rights, and they make the money, and so they're already pumping money into their own esports teams because they want it to be in that sport. Like, sport is controlled and marketed and sold in this certain way in the West. So they're like, okay, it's esports, it's sport, it's going to be controlled and marketed and sold in this certain way. But they're a bit confused because they haven't quite cottoned on to the fact that it's grown with its own broadcast system and own network, so it might not be packaged and sold in the same way. But they can see a stadium full of people in Korea, and they think, why are we not having that over here? Let's fill our stadia if young people want to fill the stadium. So they're on that train, that marketing train already. But for Sam to say that because esports exist, games have weaker stories is frankly ridiculous. They even try Overwatch and games that they use for esports try and put some backstory into some of the characters or the concepts, but the one-player mode, the single-player campaign, is the story, and the mechanics of the game as a multiplayer, like Fortnite, has shoehorned in a really elaborate and quite stupid story so that they can tell narratives to sell items to players within game. But actually the story doesn't matter at all because it's an online multiplayer battle royale. So that's not a narrative game. So it doesn't need a narrative. And people aren't hunting for a narrative within it. And when presented with one, quite often they say, what is this chuff? I don't really get this. Like, they're just trying to shoehorn all these different characters into some kind of story. Here's all the assets. Here's the stuff we're trying to sell in the shop. Put it in a big story. Oh no, wait, we're good at that. We've been doing that for years with action characters, with films. Here's something I wanted to do. We're going to divert for a second. Because he's raised this point about these esports and this narrative, and it's brought something up in my mind that I'm going to show you. But before we do, I'm just going to finish this point. Narrative games are still strong and healthy. He even just talked about one earlier. He said The Last of Us was really good. So they don't play Last of Us as an esport. So why is he so confused? Why has he said something so fuffing stupid? Not chuffing this time, but fuffing. So fuffing stupid. I mean, that's like airhead stuff. And like Elon here, who's quite a smart chap, I see this happening a lot. I've seen it with Werner Herzog in places where they're being interviewed by someone who isn't really on their level, and so has revealed themselves, like in the same way as people reveal themselves in the comments by just believing something that somebody says in the comments, even though it could just be a fake person or a fake comment or a troll. Just believe, I'll talk about that as if it's the truth. He said something that's just so chuffing stupid. Elon thinks it's like, in Elon's head here, he's got fast calculations. You chuffing idiot, what a stupid thing to say. But at the same time, he's thinking, how can I say something positive in response to what you've said that makes you not seem like a chuffing idiot and gets us back onto topic. Let's see how he responds, and then I'll tell you my other little thing.
Yeah, in some of the oldest games, the graphics and sound were terrible, so they had to rely on storytelling.
So yeah, like the old Mario games had incredible story.
Yeah.
What? I think we'll cut that there. He wasn't referring to like the old Mario games when he said the graphics and sound were terrible, but they had good story. I don't think that's what he was referring to. I think he was referring to more of his... And look at his face when he's looking at him. Like, are you serious? The Mario games had virtually no story. Again, the story was just sort of like stuck on as an afterthought. It was a mechanic. It was we built a game where you can run along and jump. We're moving on from the old Game & Watch and the arcade machine where you move and jump. So we've got a long platforming section. It was the early nascent stages of computer game development. Zelda had a story. That was about a story and creating it in a game. And again, even then, like the nascent stages where we've got a sprite and we can move him and we can do this and that. Like Mario does not have. The story of Mario is there's a princess who's been kidnapped, and there's a fellow who's going to say he's a plumber. What? That's it. The story of Mario. Sam here has just revealed himself to be an absolute airheaded idiot. Maybe he was just nervous. Maybe because I'm on a Sunday roll here. I'm on a Sunday curmudgeonly roll. Maybe I'm being too heavy-handed with my criticism. But this fella here on the left, Sam, is an absolute chuffing stone morer. I didn't say moron. I said morer because, it's less meaningful, hopefully less impactful. I don't want to make him feel bad, but, come on. Why is he being paid to sit? I mean, I'm assuming he's been paid to sit and do this. Yeah, the old Mario games had such good story. You idiot. You full idiot. Yeah, because games these days, they don't have very good stories because we play esports, so they don't bother with stories in esports. What you mean, like how every character in Overwatch has a backstory and a character development arc? No, I mean, how in Splatoon they have like that huge one-player campaign and there's like a baddie and like an ongoing story arc in a world. No, not that. I meant, Call of Duty that has no story. But well, apart from the war that you win and lose as part of that campaign. No, not that. I mean, back in the day when you had real stories like Mario. Elon, like why is Elon being paired with this chump? Anyway, there's something else I wanted to show you that just sparked my brain off that. So really, I didn't expect it to be that bad, that interview. I didn't expect it. I wanted to show you this. I was looking at it the other day. We'll Google it. And highest grossing. Oh, I can't. No. Highest grossing films of all time. List of highest grossing films, all time worldwide box office, the numbers. So this is the worldwide box office numbers. I'll show you on the web browser because they're quite little words. Web browser, where are you? Web browser. There you go. So this is the all-time worldwide box office. This is a spin-off from my little talk about video games, publicity. The reason I was talking about this is what was it?
Storytelling is kind of lame. And like, whereas the prior Deus Ex and the original Deus Ex the storytelling was amazing. I don't know if anybody's played. Did you play the original?
Oh yeah, I got onto saying that Fortnite, for example, they shoehorn all of these different concepts in. Like, we've got the Predator, we've got the Star Wars people, we've got Rick and Morty, we've got this. Just any odd, because, I'll tell you why they're doing it, is because they want to sell a variety of skins. They've got the skins lined up for the shop, now make me a story. And the marketing people have been doing this for years, absolutely for years. That's Disney, that's Marvel, that's DC. No, that's not. I was being a bit heavy there. Disney, Marvel, DC didn't start out like that. Maybe they veered into that a lot more. There's a lot of merchandise there. But really, I'll tell you someone who it is. Transformers, they didn't exist before the toys. The toys came first. The marketing and the films came second. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. The toys came first. The marketing came second. And part of the marketing is a television show. And not just now marketing, but sophisticated, like we talked about Peppa Pig the other day. The marketing in Peppa Pig is to manipulate the children who are under the age of 2 to believe that they are Peppa Pig, and that Peppa Pig and them share identities. So they are, now you can talk into their brains, and you do that so you can make them buy, or make their parents buy, overly inflated goods. Over the price of the goods is overly inflated because it says Peppa Pig on it. So that's going on. That's the industry. That's the industry of this, and that's why Fortnite just shoehorn any old thing into the story. The story's crap. The story's just ridiculous crap. It's like, oh, we've got other dimensions and cubes and things happen and whatever, whatever. And then a monster came out of the bath and from another dimension. Just whatever. You can say anything you want in this story because it's just crap. But all the characters get shoehorned, get screen time, and you can sell the skins. That's the idea of those stories. Fortnite isn't about stories, it's about Battle Royale. They just shoehorn the story in afterwards. We get that. You know what I'm saying? And other things like Transformers the movie, the whole thing is a big advert for the toys, right? This is something I wanted to show you. This is a spin-off from that point. This is the all-time, bear in mind, this is all-time worldwide box office. So we're talking about all time now. All of time. So there's been some films that have been around for a long time. They've been around for a long time. So they've had a chance to build up their, get higher up on the list by merit of being around for a long time. But then the more modern films, you made more at the box office because people paid more to go in. Back in the day, you wouldn't pay a tenner to go into a film, would you? But now you do. So there's that. There's the numbers. They don't add up. They're not comparative. So the old films don't get so high up, maybe. Okay. But check this out. Check this list. This will blow your mind. And bear in mind, this is box office. I'm saying it's all about selling toys. It's all about selling toys and marketing for some of these things. Well, this isn't adding in the toys. This is just cumulative. Well, this is how many people paid to go and see it in the cinema in the world. Right? Avatar, top 1. Fair enough. That's a film, isn't it? That's a film. They spent a lot of money making a film, and then they released it, and everyone wanted to go and see it. It's a film. Avatar, international box office, domestic box office, worldwide, 2 billion. Nearly 3 billion come in from Avatar. Nearly 3 billion. Next on the list, Avengers Endgame. That's one of those Marvel Disney things, isn't it? I haven't seen it, but that's one of those Marvel Disney things. That's selling toys. Avatar's a film that I'm giving it a lot of credit there, Avatar. There's a lot of merchandising spin-offs from Avatar. But Avatar was created as a film, wasn't it? Because it's a story that you want to tell. Avengers Endgame, let's be fair, and I've got to be fair because I'm really negative about these DC and these Marvel things because of the merchandising. But in fairness, they did start out as comic books, and the comic books were not cool. They were subversive. And the people that loved comic books were not seen as cool people. But now we've subverted that, and they've come into the fore as like the leading storytellers of their age. So now comic books are cool, and the characters within them are now cool, and they now sell a lot of merchandise. So bit tied in there. That's number 2, Avengers Endgame, 2 billion, 2.7 billion. Titanic, proper film, 1997. Everyone in the world wanted to watch Titanic. Everyone did, didn't they? Big film. I've never seen it. I'm not interested. But 2.2 billion. You get that? It's a huge film. They spent a lot of money making a really big film. It was a story for the ages, Titanic, wasn't it? And they retold it with the big popular characters, the Leonardos and the Claires and whoever's. And big names, Titanic, around the world. Avengers probably had big names in it. I don't know anything about it. I haven't seen it. Avatar, again, big film, seen around the world. Number 4. Star Wars episode whatever, The Force Awakens. That's toys. That's toys, isn't it? That's just toys. I mean, again, it's one of these films where it wasn't that the toys existed first. He had a film that he wanted to make, Star Wars. But in order to get the funding, he made sure that the toy companies were on board, that they had a range of toys there. So when he was selling the concept of the film to his investors, he kept the rights to the toys, but he was also, he had these figures in mind, these toys, this toy spin-off thing. Made him a lot of money. And then after that, he was like, right, we're going to sell a lot more of these chuffing toys. You watch. Star Wars. It's Disney now as well, isn't it? It's owned by Disney. So it's toys, merchandise, Star Wars. 4th grossing film, so people are paying money to go and watch it. It is a big advert. Okay, it's got a plot and it's a this and a that, but we were talking about the quality of the games before, the storytelling, and he was saying because of the e-sport that there's less storytelling. That's not what it's about. It's that Fortnite doesn't care about a story because they just care about shoehorning in the merchandising opportunities. You know, we don't care if Jar Jar Binks is a really good character as to whether they scan well against our marketing group. They do these, do you like this character? How do you feel about this character? Would you buy lunch from this character? Would you buy a lunchbox with this character's name on? Marketing group, feedback group. You do that sort of thing. You got your cute robot. R2D2 was a character in Star Wars. It really worked. Let's do it really cute. Let's make it really... And can you make one of those in a factory with a remote control so that we can sell it? And let's model the two so they... Which came first, the chicken or the egg now? The chicken or the egg? Are they more concerned with how it looks on screen for a narrative device? Or is it... is it part of a story or is it part of a toy marketing campaign? So I'm going to say Star Wars is toys. I'm going to say Avatar, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Avengers... 50-50. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, these comic book ones, because I do see the rich heritage of comic books as a rich thing to draw on. But I also see that the people... Alan Moore, the person who wrote some really important and original comic book works like Watchmen, no longer works in that world, no longer wants to have anything to do with it, and is disgusted by the way they turned his comics into films. So, maybe not everyone involved is as pleased from the comic book end with the way these films come out and the marketing opportunities they present. But maybe the marketing companies are. Billions of dollars. It's a conversation to have, isn't it? It's a conversation to have. You might really love these films and you might feel angry about me saying this, so I'm sorry. But I'm just talking about media and the reasons it's being made. And that's what I wanted to make as a core point. This is what stood out to me about this. All-time worldwide box office, I expected... when I just thought what would be the highest grossing film of all time, I expected something old that had been around for a long time that could have been shown again and again and again, that everyone wants to see again and again. And I thought, what are the big films that people, Casablanca, okay, it's black and white, but maybe back in the day you couldn't watch it on your telly at home, you had to go to the cinema. So I thought these sort of things might come up there. I thought some of the big story films of recent times, I can see why Titanic gets up there. Yeah, we're talking worldwide, but Star Wars... Oh, I've clicked it. I didn't want to click it. It shows you all the other numbers, which we can look at in a minute for some of them. Star Wars episode whatever, The Force Awakens. I would have thought the original Star Wars, but no, these more modern ones. And I get, like I said, that it's about money these days being... you spend more to go to the cinema these days per ticket, so those numbers are going to be bigger. But it's also... I thought that the biggest films of all time would be the ones that were... really good stories, really good, well-written films, really well-written, that had really big characters that you remember, like the best films of all time, in a way. But we can see here, they're not really that. They're not really that, are they? Are they? I don't know. You might think differently. But there's not a lot of art, when I say art film, I don't mean like this little art house film, but like, critically acclaimed, artistically acclaimed films on this list. There's not so many of those films. They're much more of this sort of big blockbuster popularity, almost childish on this list. We'll go through and have a bit more of a look. So we've got Star Wars. Next we've got Avengers Infinity War. So it's the same thing as Avengers Endgame to me. It's a different film, but it's the same people doing all the same stuff. I'll tell you what sparked this off in my mind. I watched Hulk last night on the old telly. And I thought, what a rubbish film. What a rubbish film. We've got to take a little... big face diversion while I just bring up Hulk. Got a little Hulk images. The film one I want. That one. And I want to see it in open a new window, open image in a new tab. And let's look at it. There it is. So there's the Hulk. I watched this last night and it was absolutely rubbish. I mean, maybe it was supposed to be good for its time, but it was absolutely rubbish. They spent lots of money on these special effects, I imagine, and he didn't look really hulking because there was nothing in the shot to really give it much context and size. He wasn't there against a man to see the different, because it was CGI, so they kept the other stuff out of shot. It was just the stuff that was CGI'd, and then you whack it on top, don't you? And like they spent a lot of money getting his like veins to look shiny, and his face looks like a cartoon. It's got really realistic teeth, but there's just something about it that just doesn't look real and scary and hulky. That just looks like a computer game that I might play, because the computer games I play have got good graphics like this. So I'm just really used to it. It's just not impressive. Maybe it was more impressive on the big screen. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that. I was watching this film, and I was actually saying to myself, look, oh, hello, capital K. It's nice to see you here. It's nice to see you here. Watchmen is weird. I'll tell you what, Watchmen is weird because the guy who wrote it was being weird and subversive, and he didn't, he wasn't just writing a hero, I'm the big hero, and oh, isn't it bad for me, and then the girl is gone, and then oh, I'm going to save the world. No, he was writing this subversive, what would, he's writing characters with depth and realism and grey areas, like the one of them is violent to, like domestic abuse is brought up, isn't it? Domestic violence is brought up. Things that you might not consider to be comic book, selling a lunchbox. That's what Alan Moore was really good at. And that's why comic books were so good. And they've drawn from that source material and taken all the interesting stuff about humanity out and just left us with, like big character and a big flashbang. So I was watching this Hulk, right? The show's got awful. I can imagine the show would be awful. I couldn't drag myself through that. I watched Watchmen, the film, out of respect for Alan Moore, but I couldn't watch the show out of respect for Alan Moore. We'll bring up Alan Moore again in the future. But this Incredible Hulk, I watched this because I thought, I've been really mean against these films. I've always said that they're just there to sell lunchboxes and they're just there as adverts for kids. And the adults that go and watch them are idiots because they're crap films. So I gave it a benefit of the doubt. I said, at least hang on. It's cinema. They're spending a lot of money on it. And they've got directors and actors and CGI. At least they know how to make a film. So even if it is just a simple hero's journey, start off low status, and you've got to go through a road of trials to get to where you want to be. And where you want to be at the end is just where you were at the start, really, but without the low status, with a bit more happiness, maybe with the partner, the happy ending, and you go through that road of trials, and at some point it's so hard that you need this gift of the goddess, this key to unlock the thing, and it's that lighter that they gave me in scene 1, or it's paint the fence turns out to be the thing that gets you through, and that's emotional because I saw that earlier in the film and now it turns out to mean something, and then you're the hero and you've won and you've defeated the big baddie, and game over, we're back to square one. So like at least they can do that in Hollywood, and at least it's fun, isn't it? Like we kind of did that with Eddie Strongman in ways. We kind of told that story, and it's retold through loads of Hollywood. It's a staple. So I thought that's what I was going to watch. I was going to watch this Incredible Hulk, and it's going to be, he starts out and then he beats the baddie, and there was a bit of that. But there was some other crap thrown in, and some real crap taken out that I just could not countenance. So they shoehorned in, it was really nice. They did a couple of nods to the old Incredible Hulk. Lou Ferrigno was in there as a little cameo. That was nice. But, like, some real crap. I mean, you had to have this alternate Mega Hulk that he had a fight with. So they had, like, a Mega Hulk. So it became not really about the Hulk, because the whole point of the film is this Hulk, and they've spent the CGI on this Hulk, and he's the main one. But actually, they had an even bigger Hulk, like a more impressive Hulk that he fought against. So, like, that's the Mega Hulk. That's better. The film should have been called The Incredible Mega Hulk, and this guy's like the side note. And then in the film, it was just so crap, right? Because I know it's for kids, so nobody died. But, you've got to keep it PG, so you get explosions, but you don't get killings. Do you know what I mean? You've got to sell this thing to kids, so they've got to be able to see it, so you keep it toned down. But, like, the army men kept shooting the Hulk, and all their bullets kept bouncing off him. So they kept shooting the Hulk, and all their bullets kept bouncing off him. And like, after you've shot him once, and your bullet doesn't work, what the chuff are you doing? Like, you're an adult, you're a grown adult with like a brain. Why are you continuing to waste your just time and ammo? It just seemed ridiculous. And then, so then they get out a rocket launcher. Oh, I've got one of them in the truck. I happen to have in my army truck. Just loads of, like, I know it's a comic book, get over it. But it was just inconsistent like that. And they just, all these, he just walks through everything. His hair doesn't even burn. His trousers don't burn. He's CGI, he has to stay the same. The water runs off him sometimes. And then there's like this girl, and she loves him, and he loves her, and like, oh, they're gonna. And at one point, it was one of those films where I was able to predict. I paused it before the next bit happened when I like described to myself. So like they were having this quiet scene at the university, and I was like, I paused it and said, so the army are about to come in now, and they're going to break up this like piece, and they're going to chase him. Then there's going to be a bit of a showdown. She's going to see this true nature. Like I could just I wrote the film myself and then pressed play, and it did it. Like it was just so predictable, so grotesquely predictable, and in certain ways where it had to be predictable, so they just wrote things out like like ridiculous things. Like this general he's up against, this general. Like this general's just got free roam of the army. He hasn't got a job. He hasn't got anything particular to be doing. What he does with his days, he just takes tanks and army men and just says, right, you're coming with me, we're doing this, off on a mission, just doing whatever, chasing this Hulk around the world. Just like, it's not how it works in the army. It's not how it works. You can't just be off on your, I'm just got my little secret project. And he was the one that made him a Hulk, and he had this serum, and so he made the Mega Hulk to fight him. Well, that's stupid as well, because the whole point of this is you want to get hold of him so you can get the genes and you can make a Mega Hulk. That was what you were chasing him for. That's why you're chasing him. So you make a Mega Hulk so that you don't need to. Just let him be and just make your Mega Hulks. That's what you were trying to do in the first place. So the plot hinges, like the jeopardy, like it's ridiculous. And then it's her dad. I said it was her dad. I knew it was her dad the minute like she was angry about him and calling him I was like, well, why is she calling him the general? Clearly it's going to be her dad. It's her dad. And he just makes some really stupid decisions that you would never make as a father. And none of it held together in any way. The people just did like ridiculous things. Ridiculous. And then he's like, give me the antidote, it's going to make me better, and I'm going to like become the Hulk, and it's going to tone me down. And like she's just like, oh, you'll be okay. And they give him the antidote, and now he's not the Hulk anymore, and like he's better. And like then he's not better because it didn't work. And you're like, what? Why did you? How? Like the science was done by a guy who just works at a university and has all this mad lab set up just in case the Hulk's about to come round, which he's obviously going. Every time the Hulk talks to him on the computer, he opens up the laptop, right? Every time he opens up the laptop, and he's like, Mr. Blue, it's Mr. Green, I've got to talk to you. And Mr. Blue has got his computer open, he's ready to receive the message, he's talking straight back. He's talking straight back. That doesn't make sense. Mr. Blue's got a different time zone. He's got his own things to be doing. He just receives the message immediately. He's straight on it, writing straight back off his computer. He's always online, always connected and ready for that message. At one point, the Hulk, he creeps into a lab and he gets access to this woman's computer, looking for these files. So he's on her computer and she's got this Incro chat, and he just opens it. It's the same app as he uses to talk to his mate secretly. He doesn't have to log in or none of that. He just opens it and it works. He didn't have to download the app. Didn't have to do a VPN. She's got it on her computer as well. Handy. Like there's just holes in the plot. This would not happen. None of this would happen. None of it. Even if you give them the basic premise of, okay, it's a comic book, so you can create a Hulk. Now, with that, let's go and have a film. Yeah. But it just falls apart. It just stumbles over its own feet at every opportunity. At every opportunity. It's just ridiculous, the whole thing. And the resolution and the ending is that he's still the Hulk. So he didn't get what he wanted. He's still got this problem. He can now control it so he can bring it out himself. So that was his resolution. His arc, his character arc was, I've got this thing in me I want to get rid of. It's ruined my life. And people are chasing me for it. They want to kill me to get it out of me. So his character arc should have been, defeat the baddies, maybe remove it from himself as like a sort of spiteful, right, if you kill me, you still can't get it. So now now it's gone. Now there's no Hulk. Character arc went from here to here, ended up in a place of resolution. No, I'm still the Hulk. I've still got this problem. I still got green eyes. It's just now maybe I can control it a bit. So now you're a Hulk. Right? And the reason he doesn't go on a character arc is because he's not supposed to go anywhere. He's supposed to be in the next film. At the very end, the Iron Man comes in the last scene, and he's just like, oh, hello, I'm the Iron Man. I can help you with your problem. And I'm like putting a team together, and like we're going to want... Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, the Incredible Hulk turns good in the very last scene because he's the Mega Hulk that they're chasing him with suddenly gets out of control. Now we want the Mega Hulk gone. Can you help us, Hulk? Now we're all on the same team again. The Hulk's already... He's forgotten all the stuff they've done to him, and he's like, yeah, I'll help. He's not like, make your own bed, you lie in it. He's like, yeah, we're on the same team. It just doesn't make sense, that. And then, so the Iron Man comes in, he's like, oh, I'm putting together a team, and like, you know, oh, excitement you're supposed to feel for the next. Look, the Iron Man has walked into this film. It's all in the same universe. There's going to be a sequel, and they're going to get together, and they're going to do things together. And like, well, actually, so it's been a big, long sales pitch for the next film, has it? The Hulk didn't go on a character arc. The people who went on the character arcs were the people around him, and they were poor arcs, really. The General went from being a sort of out-of-control maniac that nobody could keep in check, and like doing really, like, you know, like injecting people with serum, sending people to their deaths. Like, you wouldn't get that in real life. And then at the end of it all, no one brought him to account or anything. They just said, oh, like, you're on our side now, we're on your side. We're all against the Mega Hulk. We're all against the Mega Hulk. When the Mega Hulk's done, we're happy, and we're all a happy family now. Like, what? It's stupid. So it was the most stupid film I've ever seen, like, nearly. But I have watched Revolver by Guy Ritchie, so things do get more ridiculous. But yeah, it was a bad film. 1 star. Like, sometimes I've walked out of cinemas where I've paid money. Like, I have actually in the past walked out of cinemas where I've paid money because I haven't got the time in my life to waste sitting in a dark room watching such bad stuff. I just can't. No. I'd rather just be in the arcade. You know, when they're finished watching it, I'd rather be in the arcade playing on the Teenage Turtles. But I couldn't walk out of the Hulk, so I was watching it at home on the sofa late at night, just killing time. It was just on, and I wanted to give it a fair crack of the whip. But honestly, I gave it a fair crack of the whip, and it was one of the worst films I've seen in years. And then I thought to myself, how much money have they spent on that? Like, how much? Because a lot of it went into the CGI, didn't it? It was better when they just painted Lou Ferrigno green, because Lou Ferrigno really was a really big guy. I'll show you him. You'll love this. That's the Hulk. Remember that. That's the virtual reality Hulk, the crap one. Oh, we can keep it up there. Hulk Lou Ferrigno. I remember this from a kid. You know, when I was a kid, I used to watch The Incredible Hulk on the telly. Yeah. And Lou Ferrigno, okay, he was a fella, and they just, okay, I'm on Big Face, let's go web browser. A fella, and they just painted him green, but he was like one of the world's strongest men. He went up against Arnold Schwarzenegger, we're talking about, in Mr. Olympia, and came second or something like that. You know, he was like a bodybuilder, and he was in Pumping Iron, and I've just moved something now I didn't want to move. Browser. Let's put him open link. Open image in new tab there. We'll have that. And I want one with Lou Ferrigno and somebody else to give us some context. Because often in the TV show, he would be stood next to other people, you know, being a great big person in the show. And so the context would be there. There's a good one. And open image in new tab. So this is the sort of thing you saw in the film a lot. Him being like, he smashed cars up, he smashed buildings up, anything you made in CGI, but interacting with other people not so often. When they did it, you know, it was with the girl, or it was in a scene or whatever, and he was big compared to them. Yeah, he was big compared to them, but you didn't really get this sense of like scale and awe and, you know, muscularity or whatever. It's computer generated thing in a film, like a big dinosaur. Lou Ferrigno was physically taller and bigger than people. Okay, they've used perspective in this shot. They've used perspective to make him look bigger. You know, he's close to the camera. But look, he's a big fat. He was like 7 foot something, like nearly 8 foot, and a big giant of a man with big hands and they painted him green, and he was the Hulk. And like, it was believable and real because it was real. You didn't need CGI. I would have preferred, I mean, look at him. And his teeth and his hair, and he's a beast. And even there, you've got scale because he's on a city street, so you get a feeling of it. But like, he didn't have to be taller than the buildings, like some stupid Hulk, some mega Hulk. Why am I clicking through the? There you go. He didn't have to be that. That's what I loved when I was a kid. That's what shock and awe for me. And Like, I used to get up to the stuff in the show, running about, doing stuff. Here's another one of him and open image in a new tab of him and a person. He's in a courtroom. Look at the size of him. I mean, that's really how big he is, and that's impressive and like scary because it's real and big and scary. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. My hand, yeah, sorry, I've got the camera on the dog, but I put my hand there and it just goes there. I have to remember it's not hand cam, it's dog cam. It's out of sync as well. I spent all week syncing it up, the chuffer. But so Lou Ferrigno is a big muscular chap. And these days, right, you've got Arnold's classic. Let's just have a look. Look at these chaps. Any of them could be an Incredible Hulk for me. Look at them. Look at the size. Look at the muscularity. Open image in a new tab. Got loads of new tabs now. Look at him. Look at them. Look at the legs. Look at the muscularity. That's a Hulk for me. My hand just chills here. It just goes over there, just chilling. I've got a chair that I rest my arm on. Usual sort of stuff. Look, they're muscular lads. That's the Incredible Hulk in the 70s on the telly. You want to make a film these days? Get one of these chuffers. Little bit of CGI, embellish him a bit, make him green, put a bit of a head on him, whatever. Embellish him a bit. They went for the costume with him, the green and the eyebrows and the hair. Embellish them a bit. Fine. But this is useless. That just looks like I'm watching a cartoon computer game, and it loses all of the fear factor and the impressiveness. Loses all of it. It was just, I don't know, it was just unimpressive. And it's supposed to be impressive. The best bit, the most impressive effect, was when his eyes went green. Oh, his eyes went green. Oh, you thought, oh, they look realistic because it was on a real man with a little bit of CGI. When it did that, I was like, okay, here we go. Stretch Armstrong's in the building. So that's my opinion on that. That's the Incredible Hulk. Spin all those. Look at the big, the muscularity. Oh, covered in gravy. All-time worldwide box office. This is what started it. This is what sparked it, you see. I watched The Incredible Hulk and I thought it was rubbish. So it was just a big long... I know, hang on. I know. It was just a big long advert for Incredible Hulk lunchboxes and toys and McDonald's spin-offs. It was. They didn't put... When I looked into it and looked at how much money they spent on making the film, it's not on that list, but anyway. They spent loads of money on things like actors, CGI. They spent loads of money on marketing. And of course, they made money at the box office and lots of money on spin-offs and, Incredible Hulk lunchboxes. Kids wanted those green hands. Hulk smash. Make something out of plastic that will one day end up as landfill that's part of the destruction of our planet that you can sell around Christmas time. Good on you. Hulk smash. They sold a lot of merchandise, didn't they? That was the point of that film. They put a lot of money into it. And I'll tell you, if you put a lot of money into a film, I'm talking about money, like, I'm not talking about money at my end of the scale where I spend 150 quid on a lens and I'm like, look, isn't that an improvement? Yes, it's a massive improvement. 150 quid on a lens. On the film sets, and I've got a friend who works on the film sets. He's currently working on the most expensive film set ever. Wheel of Time. They've thrown a lot of money at Wheel of Time. They've thrown a lot of money at that. They spend a lot of money on these things. And the point of the film, if it was to make, like, when Stanley Kubrick was making films and like Clockwork Orange, and it was about, like, the point was to make a film about, for a start, it was a really interesting novel, wasn't it? So it had this underpinning of literary acclaimed piece. And then he wanted to make a point about society. So, he made a film, an artwork that had a story, that told an interesting story, had a narrative, visually realised in interesting ways. Then you've got the other end of the spectrum. Like, we've been playing virtual reality this week. You've got virtual reality experiences that aren't even stories. They're not even stories. It's just about, floating around in this luxury looking, wow, isn't this an experience? Then you've got films that are big adverts. You spend a lot of money on these things. You want to make sure the money comes back. So you want to make sure that the top 3 things you've got out of your money, right? If you're making a film that's on this list, what you really make sure you have to have is loads of people. You have to have a really good trailer. You've got to really be able to sell that, and it has to be sold to kids. Looking at this list, we'll get onto it in a minute, we'll go down the list more. The reason these films are making money is not because adults like you and I, not because adults like grown-ups, or even, young adults that are into cool stuff like you and I. Me. You and me. Take the other person away and then say the sentence. Not cool stuff like I. That doesn't sound right. Not cool stuff like me. That sounds right. Not cool stuff like you and me. That's right. So, not cool stuff like you and me. But kids, innit? Families. We're just talking about box office, people going in the cinema for this list. And then once they're in the cinema, they're indoctrinated. You sell them all the other stuff. You get them to go to Disney World. You sell them all the toys. The film's a big marketing project. You have to get people in the cinema to see. The main thing you want is a really good trailer. You want people to be going on those talk shows. You want good clips for the talk shows. You want the people who actually see it to say, yeah, that was all right. I like that. I mean, they are idiots. So if you spend a lot of money on CGI and actors, maybe they think they like it because maybe they're not critical thinkers. I mean, we said earlier in the broadcast, people believe the things they see on YouTube and in the comments. So, they are idiots. People believed. Now, here's an example of why people are idiots. Up north, I'm not being mean, but up north in my country, a lot of people voted for the Conservatives recently because Boris Johnson did say he was going to make a train track and it was going to go all the way up to the north. It was a high-speed railway track. And then they voted for him, and now he's cancelled the railway. But they thought he was meaning what he was going to say. They thought he meant it. They're idiots. I didn't think he meant it. I knew he was a liar. I'm having a joke, all right? Don't get on your high horse about me calling everyone an idiot. You're not all idiots. Some of you are quite sensible. I get it. But someone's paying this money. Someone's going to these movies. We're not all idiots. Sometimes we just like the CGI. Sometimes you just want to go and see a mindless movie and just waste some time. Fine, I get it. Someone's paying. I went to see Jurassic Park. It's not on the list. Jurassic Park was something special at the time. Jurassic World, it's been done several times before. I mean, somehow that got on the list. That's a different conversation. But yeah, if you're making these films, you're putting all this money in. What I thought to myself, I'm kind of going to get my words out. I've been trying to make this one point for ages now. What you want to do is you want to get these people. I thought at some point in all this money, because let's just take Titanic's a proper film. Star Wars is. Let's just take the Lion King's not a good example of it. Is it the Furious 7? That's a good example, isn't it? Furious 7. I don't think anyone could argue that Fast and Furious 7's got a particularly good story. I don't know, but I'm thinking by episode 7 they've gone a bit. I don't know why 7's got on there and all the others haven't. But on Fast and Furious 7, they spent 190,000. Is that a million? 190 million. Wow. Is that right? And why am I doing all this talking without my music in the background, you chuffer? That's ruined the video now. That's ruined the edit. Did all that talking. I don't know if it's a million or not, because I'm not very good with numbers. But they spent loads of money, right? Imagine all that money they spent on that. You would think, right? I hope I'm not putting my hand in the zone again, because I've got something naughty in my hand now. So, you would think, hang on, I'll do your question. Is it the amount of money spent or the amount of money budgeted? Well, that's a really good question. I'll tell you what I do know. That in my film world, at my end, you have a real, when I say a real, I mean a real, you can actually put the money in the pot and look at it, budget, and it only comes up to small potatoes, and you eke out every penny, and you have to try and wring out every penny, and you get people doing things for free if you can. That's my end. The other end, where Matt is off in Prague at the moment, filming with Wheel of Time. They have, so, like you say, I need a hotel room, and they say he told me a story about how the accommodation was, here's the budget for the accommodation, go and get yourself your accommodation. And like, so he just said, all right, I'll get right as much as you were offering to spend, I'll have that much per night, please. You know, and that he just got himself the most top posh accommodations he could. He didn't say, oh wait, let's save some money in the budget. Like when I did the road trip film, or when I took us to Sweden, I was like, purse strings, let's not just be frivolous, this is my money. Let's be careful. But on a job that he's on, they're like, just put it on the budget, and he like, you've got up to £500 a night. He's like, okay, let's find somewhere that's £500 a night. No one's cutting corners, no one's trying to save money. Someone's all the way up the chain, the money's been put in a big pot from somebody else, it's not your money, and someone's saying, how much do you need for your lenses, how much do you need for your, and they're like, we want this much money for the lenses, and they're like, here it is. All the way along in the film world. And I tell you, from the point that I'm at to the next step, even just the next step, you look at these podcasts on YouTube. Sean Atwood's got a podcast, and some bloke with cameras goes around doing the filming for him and overcharges him. Like the industry standard from my point upwards is overcharging everyone for everything. You won't get it cheaper from other people because they all want to overcharge, because make as much money as you can, you chuffer. I don't know how they get away with it, but everyone overcharges for everything. The budgets are all inflated because you don't need that much money to spend on the things that are happening. Like, cameras are expensive, people's wages, you know, it gets put into people. You spend a lot of money on the talent, don't you, and all that. But really, you know, everywhere along the line, if you're going to say what's your, you know, have you ever done a job? I bet you've done a job where, it's like, I'm supposed to tell you how much it costs. As a hairdresser, it was easier because everyone else had their prices. I'd get everyone's price guide, and then I'd be able to pitch myself where I sat in the market. I'm not as hoity-toity salon like them. I'm not going to charge over exorbitant prices like them, but I'm better than them because I've got, like, you know, NVQ level 4, and I've got, like, you know, good skills, and I'm going to charge more than them. That's where I go in the market. That's how much a haircut costs from me. That's how much I'm worth per hour. But like in this film world and stuff, it's like, oh, we're going to be doing a promo and we're a marketing company and here's the budget. Like, you're a production company, here's some money, do it for me, please. And then the production people are like, oh yeah, it's going to cost £500 for a cameraman, and the camera's going to cost like £800, and you know, you're just making up the money just to spend as much as you can to get as much as you can, aren't you? It's all extra profit, all in my pocket, you know. So this thing about, I was going to say, I bet you've done a job where someone said to you, how much is that? And you think, I don't really know how much it is. How much are you prepared to spend? And I bet you've had people invoice you, or, you know, you've tried to get work from people where, like, I've done it where I've said, how much does it cost this person to come on the podcast? And they've said, how much is your budget? And I'm like, well, I don't really have one. I don't want you to try and feel me out so that you can maximise your profit off me. I just want to know how much you would accept, what's reasonable, what's the industry standard. There is no, what's your budget? So these companies get these budgets because I don't know where they get the money from, to be honest. It's finance, isn't it? Big money finance. And they want to make the money back. And they do. It's big money when they get up this end. You know, big box office, billions. So what's a million here and there? And you know what I was saying about, like, you get, like, instead of, because I wouldn't pay £500, whatever, I don't understand numbers that good. But whatever it is, say it's per week, say it's £500 a week for a flat. Like, me personally, I probably am used to paying half that. Like, I'm just saying context, like, when you're out on a job, I wouldn't, if you give me a £500 budget, I'd find somewhere for half the price because it's my money, you know, I don't want to spend. But if you're giving me a £500 budget and it's your, whatever, it's £500, whatever the thing is, I've lost my way a bit. What's my budget? Me? I've got no budget, you see. Yeah, what they ask you though, don't they? They say, what's your budget? And I'm like, well, I don't, you know, it's not like somebody else is giving me money to do this. Like, you know, we're a marketing company. We're coming from Hovis Bread. Hovis Bread are giving us £6,000. That's our budget. So we'd like you to make a film. Oh, how much does a film cost? Oh, well, they cost about £6,000 then, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? That's the way they work. And if they're asking, like, if I'm saying, would you come on my podcast? They want to say, how much money have you got? And if I say £300, they'll say, oh, you can't afford it. And if I say, you know, £500, they'll say, maybe you can afford it. You know, just tell me how much it cost, and I'll tell you if I can afford it. But yeah, on this sort of stuff, they've got these big budgets. So that's what my point was. When you come down to these small potatoes, when the production manager is saying, here's your money for your, like, Matt was telling me about this luxury place they got. Like, I'm sure that the producer of Wheel of Time doesn't give a shit about an extra £200 a week, £500 a week for their luxury place. Like, they all live in luxury places. They're not used for anybody staying in the Holiday Inn. You know, they're not used to anybody staying in the Nights Inn like I would. Everyone just has the luxury places. Fine, fair enough. But so that small potatoes, it all adds up to quite a lot of money to me, but to them in their budgets, it's not quite a lot of money. It's an extra 200 grand on the budget. It's just, they don't care, do they? It's all perspective, isn't it? It's all relative. It's all relative. So I don't know if they spend all the money in the budget, or if that's the money that was spent. But I also don't think, truly honestly, I expect they do get the receipts in and they total it all up, don't they? They've got accountants that do that. But I don't think you get an accurate representation of how much it costs to make a film. That's what I'm trying to say. I think if you gave me that money, I'd probably be able to get you 3 films the same out of that same budget. Or, you know, give me less budget, I'd be able to get you something similar. Because I would be, assuming you wanted me to do that, you know, assuming you wanted me to cut the cost, I just don't think they're running around cutting the costs. There's this sort of concept of how much does it cost? Let's get it done. You know, I'm working for Amazon now. They've got a big budget. You know, we're telling them. They're not telling us how, you know, we want to make it within this framework. And if they are, it's a big framework. So fuck it, let's spend money. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you get a true market price. That's what I'm saying, a true market price. Because when you ring someone up and you want it done, it gets done and you just pay the money. And then the people at the small end, like the jobbers like me, we're just pushing up that price as much as we can until someone says, maybe I can get that somewhere else cheaper. But quite often they don't bother because they don't care. Because for us, like pushing up £200, oh, I've made an extra £200 on this one. And they're like, I could find someone else cheaper, but why bother? You do it. £200 is nothing to me. Get on with it, you know? That sort of thing. I can't even hide now because that camera's going to catch me. Where can I hide? Oh, the cat's coming in. The cat come in then. So we're having an interesting chat about this. Next on the list, Jurassic World. And I did say I poo-pooed that. Jurassic Park was the one that like brought all the you know, Jurassic Park was groundbreaking, wasn't it? New dinosaurs, new technology, groundbreaking. Jurassic World's just like a remaking of the same sort of thing, isn't it, really? Is there... So this is... Oh, okay, I didn't even get my point out again. The point I was really wanting to make... Yeah, the cat. Forget the cat. I'm going to make my point. We've got another cat in a bed down there, but you can't see him because he's so... Under the table, it's dark, and he's in a bed. They're all in here tonight. Now we've got a carpeted floor. The animals are joining us more often. There's the hand again. So the point I was going to make was that out of all this budget, you would think there'd be a lot of money in the budget for the story. You'd think that there'd be a lot of money. I'll go big face now because I can. Big face. Get rid of that arm out of the... Don't want to see that. You'd think that they'd say, like, hey, we've got loads of money. We're throwing it around. Firing it off into space. So let's put a lot of money into the story. Let's make sure the story's really good. But because it's a marketing thing, because the things that drive the story are not let's make the story really good from an art point of view, let's make the people really question something or feel something, that's dangerous territory. You might make people not like the film. Let's just make sure we stay really safe. Let's make sure the story's really like surface level and basic, and that people are surprised and, you know, wowed by some of the visual effects. That's safer. Having wow visual effects is safer because, you know, they can't mess them up by people's perceptions of stories or acting performances or you know, what the thing meant to somebody. It just, wow. So that's the safe. So they don't, what I'm saying is they don't spend the money on the story. So what's weird to me, all-time worldwide box office films, we're not seeing the films with the really interesting, you know, the films that in 100 years you make a list of the films that meant something to humanity, that like made a difference. You know, the films that you've almost life-changing in ways that have made you cry. That, you know, these, it can be anything as well. It can be from all genres. You get these standout works. They're not the ones that took the most money at the box office. And the ones that took the most money at the box office are not those ones. Titanic, even number 3. It's not really that much of a story, is it? It's just like a basic love story, a bit of a Romeo and Juliet, wrong side of the tracks love story, and then it ends in tragedy. And you knew it would because it's Titanic. You knew what was going to happen. Where's the best story on here? Avatar. It's an interesting concept. I mean, you can't big up Titanic. Come on, you can't big it up. You can't. It's so boring for a number 1, isn't it? It's so boring. I mean, I didn't get much out of it myself. I didn't watch it. I've seen clips of it. I didn't get the feeling like, oh, it's interesting, I want to see that. Yeah, never seen. I've never seen it. You've never seen it. Why would you? He's on the Titanic. She's on it. He's rich. She's rich. He's poor. A bit of a love story. Oh, I don't care. Then they sink. So, biggest box office. Jurassic World. I don't see why Jurassic World is up there and Jurassic Park's not. But it took more money. Maybe it's because money's more expensive now. You know, when I went to watch Jurassic Park, my ticket probably cost £5. And if I wanted to go and watch Jurassic World in 2015, it would have cost me 10 to 15. So there may be that. The Lion King 2019. The first film, number 7. The first film that I can approve of. But that's because the story was lifted from Hamlet. And the songs were nice, weren't they? The songs were good. But again, if you want to make a really... I mean, Disney here now, so I don't need to tell anyone that Disney are good at making adverts for products. I don't need to introduce that concept, do I? It's Disney. We know about that. They run the park and the merchandise and all that. They're really good at it. The Lion King's fun. It's got good songs. You know, it sells it. Songs sell it. They're on the radio. Your film is being advertised on the radio for months. Songs sell it. They're good. But the story, it was lifted off Hamlet. It wasn't their own story. They just lifted a story from something else, and so the story was all right. But I'm surprised again. I mean, it's Disney, so you spend a lot of money on the cartoons. You spend a lot of money on the animation. You spend a lot of money on the people who voice it. But I'm surprised they don't spend so much time and money on... I mean, the story was good, don't get me wrong. But they just lift it straight off. That was cheap, wasn't it? It was cheap. Maybe it's harder to throw money at a story. No, you can see my knee there now. That's no good, is it? Let's move that. No, I can't even sit comfortably. Maybe if you throw money at a story, it doesn't improve it. I don't know. Furious 7, number 8. They should be 7. What a shitter. Imagine if you worked on Furious 7 and you're the 8th grossest worldwide box office. Can we not just sell 100 million more tickets and get ourselves up to 7? Because you are Furious 7. What a shitter. 8. How ironic. But I swore a couple of times then. So just said, you know, that's bad. Like, that's a shitter. Like, it's not that bad a word. It's not that bad a word. A shitter. Sometimes people refer to the toilet as the shitter. Like, if they just, you know, you don't say, not all the like, you wouldn't say that if you were, like if you were talking, only when you're with the rough people who you want to impress with your ruffian traits. Not if you were nice people who eat cucumber sandwiches. You wouldn't, like, if you're at Wimbledon and you've just had some strawberries and cream and you're having to just squeeze past the people. I've never been to Wimbledon. It's, you know, for the posh people, isn't it? If you're there and then you squeezing past them, you wouldn't be like, I'm off to the shitter. You wouldn't shout that at Wimbledon. It'd be quiet. Shh, quiet, please. I'm off to the shitter. You wouldn't hear that. You wouldn't hear that. You'd hear it, you know, if you're working on the building site. You might hear then. I'm off to eat all the time. People be shouting about the shitter all the time on the building site, yelling about the shitter, but not so often at Wimbledon. Anyway, that's just a little bit of English language. Colloquial English language. So next film, The Avengers. What's The Avengers? Oh, it's Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Avengers. They're those Supermen, aren't they? I've got no idea about the Avengers. I think they're Supermen. I think they're a squad of Supermen, and I think they're put together by either Marvel or DC. If I had to guess, I'd say Marvel, and they're the Avengers. I bet one of them is called like Fantasy, and I bet another one's called like Rockman. Alright, cat, don't be scratching the carpet. I just said it's nice. Don't go in and scratch it. You see, you made me talk to you like that. I want to say I love you all the time, and yeah, and the first thing, don't with the window. The window's not going to cut it. You are not. She is. Yeah, don't do the window. Careful with that camera now. She's a troublemaker. So the Avengers. Next 10. Frozen 2. Frozen 2. Frozen 1. So Frozen 2, I'm guessing. Again, I haven't seen it, so it's not fair of me to judge. But I'm guessing the story component of Frozen 2 was slightly less compelling than the original. Often they are. I mean, sometimes you get a really good sequel. Sometimes you get a good sequel. Don't you, Shakima? Like, Nathan was a naughty dog, and then we got Marlowe. Like, this is the cat. This is what you want to see. There you are. You right there now? Absolutely fine now. That's if I just hold you like that, you're fine. No, you're gone. Right. Frozen 2. 10th biggest selling. We're going to keep going down here until we get to a film that you can say, no, that was a really good film in terms of script writing, storytelling, acting performance. I think is quite important as well. Acting performance. Until we get to one of them, I'm going to keep reading. Frozen 2, number 10. Number 11, Avengers. How many Avengers films are there? We've got 1, 2, 3 the original, 4 Avengers Age of Ultron. They've made so much money, the Avengers have. Can they really be compelling story? You know, are they... I don't know who made Avengers, I don't. I just don't believe that they're that... They can't be... Like, am I missing out on some sort of compelling, critical story? You know, will it change? Avengers? Is that... I'm not trying to be highbrow or posh about it. I just think some films are really moving and meaningful, and others are not so much. Number 12, Black Panther. That's like the black superheroes. So they're superheroes as well. Again, I haven't been to see it, and it might be really powerful and moving for some people because they were trying to make a bit of a statement, weren't they? Because, you know, they're all black. But, like, again, it's not... The thing about Black Panthers... There's two things that I want to say about it, actually. Two things. One is that it's not that they, like... If they just made Superman and just cast a black actor in Superman, that would be doing the thing. That would be the thing. But to make a whole film about it and to make a whole concept about it and so you're allowed to be black superheroes, but in your own film. You know, you're not going to cast a black lead role in a superhero film like Superman, but you're going to give them their own film. It's a little bit patronising in my opinion. I don't know, I might be wrong because I haven't seen it, and I'm not, whilst I've got mixed race in me, I'm not of that exact ethnicity that the film is marketed towards. But again, I think it's just a superhero film, and then this one's, the hook is that everyone's black, so maybe that. And then the other thing I wanted to say about it was I always thought Black Panthers were, like, in America, you had this really important social movement where, I mean, I might be saying things that everyone knows, but black people weren't treated very well. Like, not fairly, not with equality. In fact, it just annoys me that we always, like, talk on these terms of, like, black people, white people? Why not just talk about people? Why do we see this like critical factor as this thing? Like, why are we drawing all these lines around it all the time? Like, even today, making a whole film where it's like about Black Panther, black superheroes, big thing, big line drawing. It's not like some of the superheroes are black and we just get on with it because the world is normal, and some people are just this and some people are just that, and we don't make a big thing about it. No, we're making a big thing about it. Okay, fine, whatever. But back then they needed to make this big thing about it because they needed to affect social change, like literally. I mean, we still need to affect social change, I get that. But maybe this method was not. Maybe the Black Panther film in 2018 was not designed to affect social change. Maybe it was designed to be marketed to a certain group of people who have got some money that you want. But you know, the people who really wanted to make the social change happen, they formed a real group. And the Black Panther group, what they did was they fed people that were impoverished in the areas. Like they basically come together to protect and serve their local communities. There's rules in America about being able to carry guns, so they carried guns. They were defending themselves from the police sometimes and from the other populace. You know, there was conflict in. They did this really important social thing, and they were sort of seen as maybe a violent group, but they weren't ostensibly violent. They did a lot of pacifist things as well. But they had a line they weren't pacifists. They had a line drawn. We will defend, like most people in the American Constitution thing. You know, defending myself, right to carry, whatever. They drew this line in the sand and they defended their communities. They literally created education programs and fed people. There was a problem with poverty because of the endemic problems in the society, because the society was racist. So they said, all right, we'll do our own thing and make sure that we're doing our best for our community because they're in a bad situation to start with. So the Black Panther movement was like vital to social change, and it carries a lot of heritage. It carries a lot of important history. And so to just take the name from that important political group and use it for a superhero movie is really tactless and distasteful. Like when you Google Black Panthers, you should get Black Panthers, the Black Fist salute, you know, the real thing. You shouldn't get a superhero movie from Marvel because they've got more money. That's not what you should get on Google. You shouldn't sully the history with all this other stuff, these lunchboxes. I know they're not directly connected, but how can you not be directly connected when you're making a film that's entirely cast with black people and it's marketed towards, and it's, how can you not understand that historical context of the name you are using? Well, it's not for me to say, is it? Well, no, it's okay for me to say. It's okay for me to say. I think I've said it. I think that's fair. So I hate the Black Panther film. I hate it because I actually think it's racist. I thought, no, wait, what are you saying, Scott? Loads of people went there, and I'm not black. Okay, I've got loads of freckles because I've like got a quarter Indian, and you probably don't look at me and say, oh, he's Indian. But like, if you went to see my great uncle John, you'd probably look at him and say, oh, he's Indian. Like, no, it just. You know, if you went to look at my mum's relatives, you would probably say, oh, they're Irish. You know, whatever. Like, there's different people, and they came together, and through history, and now I'm English, and it's just a word and a name and a place and whatever. No, we're just people. We just live in the world. But Black Panther feels a bit patriotic. Were the people that put the money in, that told the people what to do, were they black? Were the people at the top that were making the decisions? Or were they just paying other people to do things, to say things from actually a different person's point of view? I don't know. But it's questions, and I don't like the undertones. I don't like the undertones. It'd be better just to be called Panther, wouldn't it, if you weren't like pointing a big thing at this other thing. Like, if you don't want people to be labelled by their race, then why are you going around making a big thing about the label of the... Anyway, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Is that the first one that you're allowed to say has got a story? No! She didn't put stories in her books. She just lifted them out of other things. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you've heard about this. But before, when J.K. Rowling was growing up... Before J.K. Rowling started writing her books, 1974 to 2018, very popular in the UK. The Worst Witch. Very popular in the UK. The Worst Witch. Books turned into TV programmes, even turned into films on Netflix these days, about a group of young girls in a witch school doing Harry Potter stuff. The Worst Witch. It was on the telly. J.K. Rowling was exposed to that. She could not have failed to have been exposed to that. She was exposed to that. She knew about that. That was in her mind. It's in everyone's mind if you're British. You've heard of it. It's been around since the 70s. It's been on the telly and it's in books. Terry Pratchett, Wizards University. In the Terry Pratchett books, which were very popular fantasy books at about the sort of time that J.K. Rowling was considering writing a book, before she'd even written a book, this was top of the... If you walked into Waterstones, the bookshop, the main bookshop in the UK, if you've been in a bookshop and seen a book, if you've been in a library, if you were interested in books of any description, you could not have failed to have been exposed to have seen Terry Pratchett's work on the shelves, on the posters, being talked about in the magazines. Sorcery, look, that's a book about a young boy who's learning to be a wizard, so he goes to wizard school. That was really popular. Right at the time when she was writing her books. What did she decide to write her books about? Tell me again about what Harry Potter's about. You could chuff right off, man. You see, Mildred, like, I bet you could name even... There's just two examples. Now, okay, you're going to say... It's fair to say, they weren't the first examples of a wizard school. And I could name, like, 10 other works that have got the concept of a school and the magic fused together. You know, I could name 10 other works. You can make it your own, fine. You can make it your own. If you make it your own by just weaving in other bits from other works... You know, I take a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this. He said that, she said that. Done. Like, if you do that, it's not a book. It's more of a sandwich. Isn't it? It's more of a stew. It's more of a sandwich. Some people make that stew by internalising concepts, by seeing things in life, seeing things in other literature, thinking deeply, going on a dog walk, thinking about it, and then saying, hang on, I just think I should create this, and I think, oh, tap the mic, don't tap the mic. If I create this, it's going to speak of the way I feel about this. Other people are like, I think this and I see that, and I just take it at surface value and stuff it together and make my own. J.K. Rowling. So there are no concepts, no themes in Harry Potter that are original. None. The orphaning, all of it, none of it's original. All of it's from other works, and it's all just sandwiched together, sort of semi-haphazard. And, you know, it's just bad. It's not good, it's bad. There are lots of people that love it. They're going to go, oh, I love Harry Potter. Did you read all the Terry Pratchett books first, after, at all? They were really good. They had some really interesting concepts woven, some important reflections of our own world. And overall, his entire catalogue of works came together to form... After his death, it became more apparent that Terry Pratchett was talking about equality, that Terry Pratchett was talking about race relations, sexual freedoms within the context of these books in a way that would teach young people decency and honour. And the characters that developed and went on not just journeys but plot arcs, like became people, changed their surroundings, learned things about life, and the lessons they learned were valuable to young people. Brilliant author with lots to say, opinions about the world, how ridiculous racism is, how ridiculous some of his early works about the witches were about sexism, you know, how ridiculous sexism was, and about traditions. Some really interesting works. Yeah, did J.K. Rowling do anything about that? No, Harry Potter's got glasses and he rides a broomstick and You know, chuff off. I don't care. I'm making enemies now, but these are the most popular movies of all time, so of course I'm making enemies. What I'm trying to say, though, you might argue that Harry Potter is, because out on this list, it's the first one that's come from a book. Except the comic book things, maybe. But, you know, it's from a book. Well, The Lion King was Hamlet, wasn't it? But it's from a book, and therefore it's a good story. It's not really, though, is it? It's not especially. Do you know The Colour Purple? I don't know why this film's come into my mind, but The Colour Purple, Oprah Winfrey won an Oscar for depicting the victim of domestic violence in the... I think, was she originally a slave and then she was freed in the story? And these people were finding their footing in free America, but despite that... Oh, the battery! Now you've got troubles. Haven't you? Now you've got troubles. Oh, battery changing. Now you've got troubles. Because I do want to finish what I'm saying, but battery permitting, battery permitting. Come on now, you chuffer. Yep. Although I would... Oh, no, I'm going to have to focus it again. But I've got this new lens and it's got autofocus. This is actually fun for me now. Whee. Lovely. Have a bit of that. Whee. Lock on. Oprah Winfrey won an Oscar for a depiction. It was because, it was brutal and realistic and savage, but also meaningful and feelings, and, it made you cry, and it was harsh, but... it wasn't the story you thought. It wasn't like beginning, middle, and end, and Harry Potter's sad because he's at university and now he's the hero. Yeah, it wasn't that. It was humans and feelings, and there was something to be said about America and how it was formed, and people's freedoms and freedoms from each other, and how freedoms impose on each other. If you're not going to be mean, if you're going to be mean to someone else, it imposes on their freedom. Stuff like that, like concepts, big concepts. The Colour Purple's not on this list, but Black Panther is. Harry Potter is. Yeah. Star Wars, episode V111, that's 5, 6, 7, 8. Episode 8 now, The Last Jedi. Star Wars again. We've already had a Star Wars. And these modern Star Wars, again, it's just like we're selling lightsabers, aren't we now? Jurassic World again. We've had Jurassic World. How can we have two of the same? The Fallen Kingdom. These days, the sequels, just as popular as... I suppose if you're chuffing them out quick enough, ride that wave. It's mad though, isn't it? Were they that good? Was Jurassic World that good that it... Sequels? Oh, I forgot, what I was saying earlier in the episode. Film 1 is a big advert for film 2. At the end of Hulk, he advertised the next film. There was no ending to Hulk. It didn't conclude in a, story arc. It was just left in the air to go on to the... It was an advert for the second film, so I get it now. Of course the sequels are in there. Frozen and Frozen 2. Frozen 2 took more money than Frozen at the box office. And that's because people went to see Frozen, but then it was popular, it worked, it's magic, it's marketing magic, it became this big thing. So everyone wanted to see Frozen 2. The marketing of Frozen didn't... the film itself marketed its second film. So even more people went to see the second film. Because I bet a lot of people saw Frozen 1 on DVD or at home after it had been out in the... They didn't get caught up in that first wave, but because they watched it at home, they went to see the cinema one. Well worked. 2017's Beauty and the Beast. 2017? I thought that was in my era, Beauty and the Beast. That's Disney. Number 18, Incredibles 2. What is that, Disney? I think it's Disney, isn't it? What's the Incredibles? Oh, it's just a cartoon, Disney. Yeah. And again, number 2 gets higher up the list than the first one. So it seems that the first film is giving the second film a big push. I can't imagine the Incredibles 2 has a better story. Whatever you wanted from a film, I'm going to say some stuff now. How long have I been on this chopping internet for? Just chatting, man. I've got to say some stuff about this though. It's blowing my mind. It blows my mind. whatever you want. Like, I went to see Mars Attacks once at the cinema. It was a really good film. Tim Burton makes these really good films. Tim Burton did Edward Scissorhands. I didn't see that at the cinema. It wasn't an advert for Mars Attacks, but I liked Tim Burton, so I went to see the cinema version of Mars Attacks. Didn't see everything at the cinema, just that one. Mars Attacks was a good film. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. It had a reason for existing. You know, it wasn't there to sell a lunchbox. It was there to tell a story. It was interesting. Whatever. Blows my mind though. The reason I wanted to go and see Mars Attacks was because I wanted to go and see Mars Attacks. Yeah, it looked good. Once I'd seen it, if they had made Mars Attacks 2, Return of the Attacks, I just wouldn't have been that interested. I've never been that interested in a schlocky, churned... I don't know, schlocky's a word, I just made that up. You know, a churned out sequel for the sequel's sake, so that we get to have another run around the block with the same characters, doing very similar things. You know, if there's not much point to it, what's the point? I like to see stories and, you know, things that challenge me, don't I? I don't know, just... And they do it with horror films, don't they? The first of a horror film is exciting and, you know, got edge and anticipation and, you know, the Blair Witch. Oh, remember the Blair Witch? Oh, scary. That was a good film. Blair Witch 2, well, there's nothing now. There's nothing. You can't build up tension for a 90-minute film and have a payoff and then afterwards say, all right, come back in 6 months, we'll do it again. You know, the more you go down the road, the harder it is. You've already built the tension and had the payoff. So now you want to build the same tension and have the same payoff, or you can't because you've already, you know, we've already been there. Some of these things, I said this about games the other day, that certain games are good because they end. That I don't have to have an endless mode at the end. I don't have to be online with people endlessly battling it out for the endless. I like a story to end. It's part of what a story is. Satisfaction of a conclusion, something to think about. So a lot of these on this list, they don't even have endings, do they? They're just adverts for the next one. They're not even proper stories. Why are you going to see The Incredibles 2? Why are you going to see Iron Man 3? What is it about The Incredibles 2 that you couldn't get from The Incredibles, and that you found so important in The Incredibles, so enjoyable that you thought is worth a second run around the block? Like, I've watched some amazing, like The Shining is an amazing film. If Stanley Kubrick were resurrected, I would want to watch a second Stanley Kubrick version. Yes, Stanley Kubrick doing anything, I'd want to watch it. But he didn't make a sequel to The Shining because that's not what he's about, is it? And if they made a sequel to The Shining, quite often it's not the same director, it's not the same story, it's not the same writer maybe. It's not the same director quite often for the sequel. No one gives a monkeys. None of these people watching these films actually care who directed it, who wrote it. The Incredibles 2. Come on. Come on. I would accept The Incredibles could be interesting. I would accept it's a Disney. I'm not being as heavy on Disney because although they do have this huge knock-on merchandising, yes, it's all about sales, and yes, Frozen was designed to sell the concept of a film to little girls so that they could sell things to little girls. Yeah, you know, it's no surprise those songs are the way they are. Like, they did start out life as an artist creating works and then turned into this mega corporation creating marketing. And some of the more modern films have a lot of like they do in a way that these other people don't. Disney do care at least to craft a story. They do care at least if the story is well crafted. I'll give them that. So yeah, you know, maybe Your Incredibles could be a good film. Could be good. Could be. I'm not saying definitely will be. I'm saying could be. But I haven't seen it. But The Incredibles 2, how can you... Is there something that... Like Back to the Future was a sequel film, was it? Back to the Future 2. The third one was rubbish. The second one was great. The first one really set up the second one well. really set it up nicely, but in itself was a nice story with a nice logical conclusion. The second one turned it up a bit, level 12, showed us some things that we didn't see in the first one, took the idea to a new place. It was actually quite good. The third one was a bit of a money grabber, bit of a waste of time, a western really, just with the fact they went back in time to have it, so time travel, but really a western. Rubbish. But yeah, sometimes you can have a good sequel for a reason, but was The Incredibles that film? Was it made for that reason? I don't know. The Fate of the Furious. Again, how many times can you see people driving fast cars around? Do you care about these stories? Are these characters compelling, characters of the ages? Are these the characters of the ages that compel you to return to the cinema to see how they've developed, what's happening with them? Or is it just another series of car races? I don't know, man. I don't know. Next, because I'm not saying that until now, we still have not come up with a film where I'm going to say, yes, I would, number one, pay money to see it, and number two, it's got a good story, except for The Lion King. But that's lifted off Hamlet, so it doesn't get a free pass. The Fate of the Furious, Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3, man. Iron Man 3. Third run round, Iron Man gets on the list. 20th grossing film of all time. Iron Man 3. At least the others aren't on the list as well, higher up, because what a shame it would be if Iron Man... bear in mind, this is the top grossest films of all time. This is the history list here. This is the history list. Top grossing films of all time. And in the top 10, you've got the Avengers 3 times. So couldn't you just conglomerate them into one and give someone else a chance to get on the list that bothered to make a film? Because the Avengers 3 times, they're just taking up space on the top of the list. Iron Man 3. Minions. What the chuff is Minions? It's those little yellow Tic Tac men. You'll get these, Minions is 2015 now, is it? So you'll get these again in another 5 years. There won't be little yellow Tic Tac men. There'll be little green Tic Tac men, little blue. You can put eyes on any little character. Kids love it. It's just like an easy, solid dunk. You get your little, your little Fraggles, your little whatevers, and you make your little thing. Easy slam dunk. They're little, they're cheeky, aren't they? They're little and they're cheeky, and they've got eyes. Minions. They're from a different film, even, aren't they? They're from a different film that did have a story in it, didn't it? I've watched that one with Gru. Did have a story. It was a simple story, but did have a bit of a story. That's a spin-off film. Minions. The kids love it. Captain America. So that's just lunchboxes again. Captain America Civil War. That's comic books and lunchboxes. Aquaman is comic books and lunchboxes. Spider-Man is comic. Captain Marvel is comic book. Transformers is the worst of the worst, where they had the Transformers first, so then they started making media to market it to children that got around advertising laws. Lord of the Rings. There we go. There's our first one. The Lord of the Rings. But Scott, didn't J.R.R. Tolkien just lift his stories out of things like the Bible? I'm not going to poo-poo Tolkien. Are we? No, the Lord of the Rings is alright. That's the first one with proper story, isn't it? They had a really good book. Good old book. And they wanted to make a story out. That's the first one where you've had a really good book. And then you tried to make... Well, Harry Potter's on the list, but it's not a good book. It's just a book. But Lord of the Rings, the first one. The Return of the King. And it's interesting again, isn't it? It's the sequel that made the money. The first Lord of the Rings is not... Down there, oh my god, at number 44, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, has unexpectedly made its way up there. And that was awful. That was really bad. That was shot... I don't know if you know this about cinema. We film in cinema at 25 frames a second. And, wait, hang on. Don't you want 60 frames? Aren't you on Twitch now? On Twitch today, right now, I'm broadcasting at a clean 30 frames a second, I think. Am I? Or did I knock it up to 60? No, I'm doing 30 frames a second. Clean 30 frames a second. And I'm happy with that. Things are a bit different these days. You've got 60 frames a second, Super HD. They started using it in ASMR a while back. When it came in, some people were like, oh look, you've got 60 frames a second, let's do it in ASMR. It doesn't work for ASMR videos. It works for computer games. It doesn't work for ASMR videos. I'll tell you why. You shouldn't have cinema in 60 frames a second. 25 frames a second is enough for you to see the thing as a moving picture, but it's not super high density, high definition. But you're used to seeing cinema. Maybe it's different for kids. But we grew up in an age where the cinema itself was 25 frames a second. It's not quite as sharp on the movement. There is a little bit of, I don't want to say motion blur, it's probably the wrong terminology, but your mind makes up, some of the frames that you don't really, your subconscious sees a moving image, but there's not really one. If you slow it down enough, you see single images. At the higher frame rates, it's fast as or faster than your brain processes images. At the lower frame rates, maybe your brain does a little bit. Maybe you see a little bit of blur, whatever. It has a bit more of a look to it. Let's just say that. It has its own look at 25 frames a second. But because you're used to seeing that in huge screens as the cinema, that's the cinematic look. So I'm into focus today. I'm in bang focus because I've got a new lens that's lovely. Thank you very much for your tippies and your subscriptions and your patronage. Thank you. I've spent some of it on a lens today. This Black Friday deal it was. It's got autofocus. It's made life better on stream. I look sharper. But actually, if I move out of focus a bit over here, now I'm really out of focus. That looks rubbish, right? But if I'm just about here, there's a part of me that's slightly out of focus. I'm not quite in focus. If I'm too sharp, you see every blemish. If I move into the too sharp, you see every blemish, all my freckles. If I just smooth them out a bit by just being a little bit further away from the focus, if I just blur the edges a bit, I actually look a bit nicer. We call that soft focus. I actually look a bit nicer. You might shoot something through a window or a veil or something. It gives it a bit of texture to the focus. You might do something like that. If you've got Super HD, you just see every blemish. You've got Super HD, you see every blemish. If you've got 60 frames a second and it looks like super sports high definition, it takes away some of that je ne sais quoi, French je ne sais quoi, I don't know what. There's something that your brain sees as soft focus, quality, 25 frames a second, the cinema. Old black and white films weren't the highest tech, were they? Sometimes you even see the little bits on the screen where the spool was pasted together or whatever. But that's the cinema, that's the the high end of the art. So now you start showing me something in 60 frames a second in pure perfect focus that my phone does, or my camcorder does, or my local telly do when they're doing the news, or the football match does. Suddenly it looks more like it's been recorded on a phone or a football camera, or it's on the telly. Somehow it loses some of that cinematic quality, they call it, cinematic quality. And The Hobbit was one of the first and only films to be shot in 60 frames a second, high speed, whatever. Like, they did it deliberately, and it made it look like video. Now, these days it's a silly word, video, because there was a real thing called a video, a VHS cassette. It was made of a particular kind of tape, electromagnetic video cassette, VHS cassette. That's video. But at the higher end, you had actual film, like in the old cameras that had a film in, exposure to light on a surface that's what's the word? It reacts with the light to create an image, and then you have to process that with chemicals, and then you've got that film like that you put on a big film reel. That's film because it's on an actual film reel, film, and then video is just shot on the video cassettes. And nowadays it's all shot through a sensor into data straight away, data. So we call them videos. So you made your film Because at the high end, when you're using really expensive cameras, even these days, they don't use the actual films these days, but they kept the big cameras and the big sensors, the big frames. They kept the big frames. They kept this certain aspect of it. The high end, you can make it still look cinematic. You don't have to do 60 frames a second. But for some reason, someone took video kit that you would use, like, for sports, and they made a film with it, and it was The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, and it got on the list, one of the highest grossing films of all time. But visually, it just looks absolutely awful, and no one can put their finger on exactly why, because there's no real thing that is awful. It's just a little bit sharper. It's just got slightly more frames per second than, so you're not having to make anything up in your brain. You're seeing more of them. It's just worse. It's not like subjective, objective, whatever. It is worse. And it made it on the list. And it's you know why? That, again, it's because the first films, isn't this weird? If you do a good film and people go and see it, it's not even if they go and see it. It doesn't get on the list, does it? The first Lord of the Rings. It's the sequel that gets on the list. I'm guessing The Return of the King is the sequel, isn't it? Is that the sequel? How do you know? You just have to know things. But I don't know. I'm saying it's the sequel. It's got to be, hasn't it? Because more people watch the first film at home. They hear people talking about it. Game of Thrones, you know, people talked about it, so I had to watch it so that I could engage in these conversations. What do you mean? Don't be an idiot. Joffrey's the best. You know, I had to, so I could engage in these conversations. Beheading all the haters like Joffrey, sweet like this, sweet sticky, dark like toffee, so don't test me. Yeah, Joffrey was the best. Like, so people talked about the Lord of the Rings, then the people, and then they released a sequel. Oh, we'll go and see that. I've heard about that one. I'll go and see that. The first one acts as marketing for the second one, and yet, in most of these, the sequels are not as good as the first film. Don't know about Lord of the Rings. Maybe that's different. Maybe that was the better film. Maybe that's why it's more at the box office. Maybe it's the one where Gandalf comes in and like, oh, look for me on the third day. I always told you I was going to be there. Why are you surprised? Why are you surprised? Did you forget? Were you watching a movie and you forgot what someone said earlier in the movie? Well, then you don't deserve to, you know. I'm not going to tell you what you do and don't deserve. You can decide, but you certainly don't deserve pudding. If they tell you something in the movie itself, if Gandalf himself says it, if he says it, if he says, look for me on the third, when it gets to that, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, oh, I wonder how they're going to be saved. Gandalf's going to chuffing save them. He said it. He told, if they tell it you, jeez, can't even hide over there now. He's put his camera there. And the dog's moved. So now I've just got an image of just an empty doorway. We don't want that. Come here, you. Yon Chuffer. Yeah, so Gandalf. Let's go down to the 50. Let's keep going down to the 50. I want to see when we can get the first. Our first one was Lord of the Rings. I think it counts, doesn't it? It's not really a franchise. That was the word I was looking for, franchise. All the others are franchises, aren't they? I always find the correct words late on in the broadcast. I should edit that for the start. These are all franchises, aren't they? They're franchises. So they've all got that about them, except for maybe Lord of the Rings is a franchise, really, isn't it? Is there any standalone films that are just good films and they stood alone as being really good? No. Titanic. Avatar, the top there. We'll go down to Chang Jin-Hu at 62. I think that's Chinese. It's interesting, isn't it? These are all Western films. Where are we getting to then? I'm getting confused now. Lord of the Rings. Skyfall next. That's James Bond franchise. Transformers. They're the worst of the worst. Dark Knight Rises. Batman. Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4. 4. Disney. 4. Star Wars. The Rise of Skywalker. Joker. Batman. Toy Story 3. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's. Now that you could go, oh, is it? No, it's not. It's not. It's Johnny and his favourite. His hat's over there, so we can't have him But it's actually Disney and it's a franchise, so it's just Disney franchise. Rogue One, a Star Wars story, Disney franchise and Star Wars franchise. Aladdin, Disney. Good film. I enjoyed that when I was young on video. Didn't go to the cinema to see it. It's managed to get up there though. Oh, it's 2019. Oh, it must be a remake of some description. 2011, Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. 93, Jurassic Park. Now that, I think, will count. It turned into a big franchise, didn't it? But it was a proper book. It was a proper book by Michael Crichton. They made an interesting film about the story. The story was the point of the film. It had the interesting special effects which pushed up in the box office. And they didn't overuse them. They couldn't. They only could afford... Do you know this? Jurassic Park only had 15 minutes of dinosaurs on screen. The film Jurassic Park only features dinosaurs on screen for 15 minutes. Blows your mind, huh? Because that's all they could afford back then. But it was interesting, and it was, wow, it was dinosaurs. I remember being at the cinema watching it. It was impressive. That one counts. 39 on there. 39 on the list. It spawned a franchise. It became a Disney thing, but it spawned that. But initially, it was just a book, and let's see how this goes. And we can use some CGI, so it's showing off something we can do in the film world. It was a nice. Actually, that's interesting to point out. In the film world, there are people pushing the boundaries of what you can create, and they make films just to do that, and they're great films. Sometimes they don't have that much story. Sometimes they're more experiential. Okay, I get it. Okay, that's like really art house I'm talking about there. That's not box office. That's art house. And then there are people that are realising these visions with these good stories. There are people that are just using the tech just to sell a film as well, aren't there? Like, there's some films on that list that are really just based on the fact that, oh, we've got some really good special effects. But Jurassic Park was a nice combination of the two. The book was really interesting. It was of its time. It was about genetic modification. It was about DNA, but it was also about these deeper concepts about chaos, about life, about playing God, about our place in the ecosystem, about what we're doing to the world, about money and greed. It was about these other things. It was a really good book written by Michael Crichton. And then they turned it into a film. At the same sort of time as he wrote the book, the technology to realise dinosaurs on screen in a whole new way, not in animatronic, but in a CGI, the technology was just pushing that boundary. Two things came together at just the right time to create a film of its era that stands up to the test of time. You can still watch that today and think it looks great. They probably remastered it, so it does. But it did on screen at the time. It was impressive, and because they could only afford 15 minutes of dinosaurs, it wasn't so much about throwing money at the special effects. Let's get the people in. Here's the money at the special effects. Let's get the people in. What it was about in the true... I'll tell you a story about film noir. A little break-off story. So when we won the war, when America and England and the rest of the Allied nations stood up to Germany in the Second World War, you tough Germans, you naughty Germans, and not you now, but the old ones, the ones that were... When we won the war, when the West won the war, there was celebration and joy. Things were difficult up till then. We'd had rationing in the UK. In Europe, loads of people were dead. In the UK, loads of people were dead. We had bombings in the UK. Coventry, a city not up the road far from me, the cathedral was completely destroyed. We had bombing. The Germans would bomb our cities and towns. In America, not so much, but the culmination of it all was we won the war, and people were like, yay, celebrate. Now we can get back to life. It's going to take some time for our economies to get going again in certain aspects, but in America, they were making films in Hollywood. It was a golden age. It was called that, the golden age of Hollywood, because we'd won the war, we were free, we were the world superpower, so to speak, and we got all this new technology. We were making cars and cookers and fridges, and you can have food in your home and microwaves, and it's this future age of back then it looked futuristic, and Cadillacs, and so the films that were being made were about singing and dancing and as many people we can get on a big stage as possible, and like lights and colour film was being developed. So suddenly we had talking pictures and colour film, and so the world before the war was black and white, and films were being made, whatever. But after the war, it was celebration time, and it was colour. And a film like a great example of this would be Wizard of Oz. Is a good example. It's not a that's a golden age of Hollywood sort of film, more towards the later end, I guess. But Wizard of Oz, colour was a big part of it. The yellow brick road, the red shoes. It's a new thing. It's all this colour and this celebration of like sight and sound, and money's no object. Big sound stages, big productions, Hollywood, glamour. The whole, this whole concept of like a chorus line of girls all dancing. Singing in the Rain is a really golden age of Hollywood film. Is a really important golden age of Hollywood film. Singing in the Rain, and it talks about how films were made at the time, and you're talking about these idols of the silver screen becoming a colour screen. So golden age of Hollywood happened. After that, people wanted to make some films with a bit of edge. Life wasn't all perfect. There was a bit of undertone. There was a depression after that. We didn't become there was the threat of the Cold War because the way of life, capitalism, was being threatened by a different way of life, communism. So to prove capitalism is good socially, we have to make sure that we're all spending loads of money and selling products, and it's good. And we won the Cold War and whatever, long different story. But in America, you had capitalism didn't all work out that well. You had a depression. There was a need for there's problems with unemployment, need for jobs, and people were suffering. I don't know exactly the history of America that well because I'm not American. I know in Britain about our economy being rubbish, but yeah, it wasn't all golden age. It wasn't all wonderful after that. So people made these other films, these other kinds of films then. And you got to bear in mind, you got to remember that back then, to make a film, you had to be able to get the cameras and the film and stuff like that. It wasn't cheap. It wasn't like people like me could just pick up my phone and start going filming. It wasn't cheap. So to get the backing of the people that had the money, to be a small group, a small project, to do an indie thing, wasn't easy. So these other alternative sort of films to the gold, because Hollywood dominated this golden age because they were the ones with the money that made the films. But people started making these new kinds, and they were called neo-noir, film noir. There was a series of books, like detective books written by Raymond Chandler and other people of his peers, talking about LA, because we've got Hollywood was in LA, the gritty streets, the mean streets, the detective with his fedora hat and say, what did you say to me? And the gangsters. You had James Cagney, who was a gangster, who was a bad dude, wasn't he? You had these other films about gangsters. You had gangsters in America. You had Al Capones. You had this stuff going on. You had this seedy underbelly world. And so films started to depict violence, and they started to depict this seedy underworld of bars and clubs and the femme fatale, the female strong woman who could dominate men with her behaviour. She was born of this world, the femme fatale. So Hollywood started, as much as the golden age of Hollywood is something that Hollywood was built on, this alternative, this noir film industry was a huge important. Hollywood didn't reject it. They saw it develop and embraced it. These days you get homage films like LA Noir. That's probably not even that modern, but you get homage films to that. You still get a sort of modern noir. It is so ingrained in culture that I can just say things like the back alley of Fangio's bar, a fedora, a trench coat, and where we are. You know what we're talking about. The world, so to speak. And what happened in this time was they started to regulate films as well. They said, hang on, look, you're going to show people getting killed, you're going to show people getting shot. I don't know about that. And pornography, you're not going to show that. I don't know about that. So film was getting regulated at this sort of time. So when they created this noir film, in the books things were written, murders happened, bad things. In the films, they decided not to directly show certain things because of regulation and because they wanted them to be seen, whatever. So they came to a new idea of how to show action on screen. For example, a regular staple would be maybe you see through a window, through the blinds, or maybe you see the shadow on the wall of the gun creep into shot. The gunfire, you see someone scream. You don't see someone getting shot. You see these other things around that build up this sinister frame that you understand what's happening. You do the rest in your mind. And that was to get around the regulations when they were trying to show this seedy underbelly world, this alternative to the golden age, this birth of neo-noir, modern noir film noir. And it wasn't just because you've got sophisticated filmmakers, people with ideas, clever people doing this. It wasn't just that okay, we can't show someone getting shot, so we'll show this face instead, let's move on. It created more suspense, it created more feeling. They worked with it. They used these ideas to create suspense in films. In the Hulk, we can go, I'm not going to show you the Hulk again in this picture because I can't be arsed, but in the Hulk, you didn't actually see the Hulk in the film for a good 10 minutes. They really tried hard to hold off to build the suspense, because that's what you were wanting to see. So don't show you that blow your load straight away. Build it up. You know, show you the Hulk moving in the shadows, show you someone getting grabbed, show you a big foot. You know, build up the suspense. That comes from that modern noir, that neo-noir, that world of Hollywood in the 1950s and 60s that was changing, because they couldn't show you the shots, the gunshots and the stabbings. They showed you the things that added the suspense, that made you do it in your head. They learned how this language of filmmaking that implies things and you do the rest in your head, and it's actually more effective. So bringing this back, when they made Jurassic Park, they only had 15 minutes of footage of dinosaurs. They knew they were only going to be able to afford, and the amount of time it took back then to CGI up a dinosaur, the amount of budget, they knew they were only going to get 15 minutes of dinosaurs. They wanted the T-Rex, they wanted the big Diplodocus in the field, they wanted the Velociraptors, but, you know, had their talks, 15 minutes you're getting. So, instead of making a film like Jurassic World 3 or whatever you've got at the top, which is just full of CGI dinosaurs from back to front, you know, it's all about the CGI dinosaurs. Instead, they made the film about the story that underpinned it, the characters that you came to identify with and follow and hope for. There was a love story in there. There was a story of personal growth with little Timmy and whatever her name was. The baddies got their comeuppance. But also, there were the deeper themes from the book, you know, the chaos theory, the meaning of life, the meaning of playing God, those sort of things. It was right on the nail with current themes of DNA technology. The CGI technology to realise those dinosaurs was cutting edge. So it had all that. And it came together really well. And then the thing that they did, like I said, this other layer, was instead of showing you dinosaurs chopped to block, back end to front, they were only able to show you 15 minutes. So they build them up. They build the suspense. They build the moment. So when you do have that moment, even though it's only short in the context of the film, it fills you with such an impact that you feel like the film was full of dinosaurs. You remember those moments. They were big cinematic moments. They used the culture, the craft, the language of cinema to create impact. And it was because slightly of a restriction. You can't have all the dinosaurs. We can't give you 90 minutes of dinosaurs. You can only have 15 minutes. Do it. Nowadays, you haven't got the restriction, so maybe it's a not worse film because of it, but they're not thinking in those same technical ways. They are a bit, but really it's get the dinosaurs out. Hulk was on the screen from, like, you know, 10 minutes. Okay, you didn't see him, oh, you just saw his foot. Now he's there. Now let's do a Super Hulk. Now let's do a Mega Super Hulk. I want to see a big plane blow up. Like, if you build these cinematic moments with the craft and language of cinema, and you create these things, they worked because of that previous limit on the noir. You can't see the brutal violence, but you've got to feel it, and somehow feeling it is worse in a way, or just as bad or whatever. You know, it's meaningful. The craft of the language of cinema, the ability of the director to make you feel. And so Jurassic Park, for me, it has that. I remember when you saw the shaking of the bushes, Dennis Nedry, who ran off and he fell down and the thing's going to spit at him, and you know it's going to spit at him, and the bushes are at him, or the velociraptors are in the bushes. You're scared, not because you can see the velociraptor, but because you can't. In Jaws, same thing. Jaws isn't on this list, but, you know, it didn't have a lot of money to do a really good shark, and the whole film's about a shark, and in the end the shark was really a rubber shark that wasn't particularly that good, really that good, but You didn't see it that much. You honestly didn't see it that much. In fact, some of the scariest scenes you saw from its perspective. It wasn't on screen, even. So that's what cinema does. That's why cinema is good. And that's why Jurassic Park made it onto this list, even though it only had 15 minutes of dinosaurs. And it wasn't really about... At one point, one sales pitch of the film is, we've got the real dinosaurs on screen, CGI. But, you know, it wasn't a film about, let's do an hour and a half advert for dinosaur toys. Jurassic Park was more than that. So that's our first one on the list. I'm pleased with that. I mean, this is hard for me to be pleased because it's one of these lists, but Despicable Me 3, I've got no idea what it is. Is it that group, man? It is, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So the first one was a decent film. The rest of them are rubbish. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I actually quite like the three that came... The Clone Wars ones. I like them, but no one else does. Alice in Wonderland 2010. Is that Tim Burton? Yeah. It's our friend Johnny with his green hat. Can I not zoom in? Right, we're having a look at this. Alice in Wonderland, Johnny Depp. I think this will be where we alight for the evening after this little bit. Shouldn't tell you that, 'cause you might bugger off early. This is Jonathan Depp and his open image in a new tab. Now, people have told me, you'll know from stream, you'll know. I'll answer your question in just a second about Casey Musgrave, because I'll have to Google it. But I did want to point this out. This is massive. This is massive. Just going to go and get the hat. It's just over here. Now, this is massive. You'll know all about this hat, won't you? This film, Alice in Wonderland, I'll just give you the quick... Before we get to the hat, I'll give you the quick... Obviously, Alice in Wonderland is a good book, good piece of literature, been made, remade and remade. This one's Disney. I didn't think it might be Tim Burton. It might be Burton. We'll give it a benefit of the doubt. That's a good film. It's got a good story. I'm sure it was done really well. Really well. And it got on the list. So now our list is complete. We've managed to find some things on the list that are, you know, films for their own right and are not just parts of a franchise. But, you know, I'm giving Harry Potter as a franchise, isn't it? I'm giving... we'll come to this. There were some other films I wanted to pick out on this list, but we didn't get to them. The foreign language films, because they're interesting, because to get on this list is tough with all this crap. So that must be a really... a bloody battle between United States and China begins in 1950. Faced with the harshest conditions, the Chinese troops forge ahead, fearless and determined. They successfully blow up the bridge, making the most critical victory in the war to resist US aggression and aid Korea. Ooh, and that's their best film. That's the one they love the most, so... That's interesting. I wanted to look at the foreign language films that had made the list. But, yeah, so my point was... Everything's rubbish, apart from we get down to about 50, 60, we start getting some actual films. And our first one was kind of Lord of the Rings, and then we said we liked some other films. I've forgotten what they were now. Shrek's on there, look. Jurassic Park. But the rest of the list is still absolutely chock-a-block with all this crap, isn't it? So they don't put the money into the stories in Hollywood. They don't put the money into the stories. In fact, they put a lot of money into the look of the thing and the marketing and whatever they could use to market it. What's going to look good in the promo? What's going to sell this? They put a lot of money into that, but they seem to veer away from caring as much about the story and that sort of artistic craft part of it. But anyway, that's what we said. So, look, Johnny Depp, it's been said, when I make him appear on the stream by putting on his hat, when he appears, I'm not bringing him out. My voice, my throat wouldn't hack it. But he has appeared on stream in the past, and he wears this hat. He wears this hat. Early stages of the stream, he was here a lot more often. He's not here so much these days. But he wears this hat. And people said, do you remember, I think you will remember, that people said that Johnny Depp does not wear a green hat. Why are you doing it with the hat? Why is that the Johnny Depp hat? What's it got to do with Johnny Depp? He doesn't wear a green hat. Well, look. What colour's his hat? What kind of hat is it? Top hat. What colour is it? I think we found a winner. I think he does wear a green hat. I think he does, so we sorted that out. Now that we've proved that, I'll just put the hat down. We don't need that anymore. Sorted that out. Look, the cat's over there licking herself. She's on the telly and she's licking herself. That's not right, is it? Shakimi, you're on the telly. She's enjoying it. She likes sitting by that light. So Johnny Depp does wear a green hat. He definitely does. And to finish, we're going to look at this Casey Musgraves. So I'll give you my opinion. She's an American singer-songwriter. She's won 6 Grammys. You often think, now this is weird to me, right? You often think, oh, they've won Grammys, they must be good. And then you look at the list of the people that they've been giving Grammys to recently, and then you think, oh, I don't know. Like, some of the Grammys have gone out to some real chuffers recently. Like, and you see these people, and they're like, oh, I've worked with so-and-so and so-and-so. Like, they're like, I've written a song for Miss Dynamite, not Miss Dynamite, what's her name? Lady Gaga. I write for Lady Gaga. Or like, there's one in the UK that's on the telly at the moment who worked with Sade or Emily Sandé. And, like, okay, you produced a few songs in the background. I get it. Like, you're a music person. And then they're like, oh, and I've got like 7 Grammys. And you're like, what? You've only been around for 10 minutes and had 1 hit. Where are these 7 Grammys coming from? And then you've got the people like, you know, who I think are all right, but, you know, what were they doing? They were doing that song about, let's all go to bed and I've got the nice food and I've got a nice house. Let's go to bed, I've got a nice house, nice house, nice house, nice things. Better come round, I just don't even close the door. Leaving it open. And then you're like, oh, that's, you know, average at best. And then you look into them, and they've all got Grammys, all of them. They're just chuffing the Grammys are going round. Like, they're just giving out the Grammys. I've never heard of Casey Musgraves. She's got 6 Grammys, though. 6. You get your Grammys before I even hear about you. Before you even make it onto the radio in the UK, you get a Grammy. Mad. Has she done something, or is she just famous for singing? Never heard any of these songs. Country, she's country. That might be why. Maybe in America, country is a bigger... Like, we don't have any country in the UK. I mean, we've got the countryside with the grass and the trees, but we don't have country artists. It's not a... Like, when I say it's not a... it's not a genre. Like, it just doesn't... Like, in America, you've got, like, places where people listen to music and dance. You have those in England, maybe as a fad in the late 90s, but now I bet you'll get like some 1 or 2 people in a community that really like country music, and I bet they have to travel to like Stoke or somewhere random, like, to meet up to do a country club once a month. I bet they don't even have a consistent scene. I mean, I might be dissing the country scene in the UK, and let's hope they all get on stream and tell me about it. In fact, you've inspired me now. It's going to annoy me now, but it feels like I get these ideas in my head, like, all right, now what I should do is I should look up the country scene in the UK, and I should do a little Louis Theroux documentary where I go and meet the people, and, you know, let's expose the UK's underground country and western scene and see what it's like. Because I've said it's nothing and it doesn't exist. Maybe it does. Let's prove me wrong. But I don't really fancy doing it. But it can't be that. You know, they can't be. We just don't. You know, we didn't. Countries of a place and a. How do I explain it? You know, it's got history and heritage, and it's got history and heritage because of the place and the people, hasn't it? So because England's different, we've got our own different musical history and heritage things going on. You know, we just don't have a country scene. So pop country singers, people coming through the country, coming through the Nashville side into this more, no, we just don't hear them. We don't, until they get to that size, to Billy Ray Cyrus size, to what's his daughter, Miley Cyrus, until they get that big, we ain't going to hear about them in the UK. Our radio is popularised, you know, we have to, honestly as well, in the UK, their music companies make them play more UK based artists, don't they? And we have to listen to, I say we have to listen to, but we do, we have to, they pump it into our ears more often, different kinds of music, and different people making it. It's kind of weird, isn't it? You think we'd know you're like, you know, big artists just because they're big in America, they're big in the UK, but they don't always cross over in that way. You have to be allowed time on the telly, time on the radio. Yeah. I'll tell you who did cross over and I fucking chuffing love was King Princess. She ruined the stream by watching one of my favourite things ever, but they won't like it for YouTube. Give up our YouTube. King Princess Jules Holland. So in England, I'm going to seem really old now. Seem really old. But we have this program called Jules Holland, right? When you're a kid, you're like, Jules... Oh, wait, what am I doing? I'm just trying to turn off the sound from this. When you're a kid, you're like, Jules Holland's an older man when you're a kid, and you're like, oh. But then you look into his history, and you're like, oh. Because Jules Holland is like older than the, you know, young acts that are coming through. He's like not hip, is he? He plays piano, and he has a big rhythm and blues orchestra. So he's a bit more traditional, and you're like, oh, he's not that cool. But then you look into his history, and he was in Squeeze, and they did Cool for Cats, and they're cool. They were like a cool band. So he was in a cool band. He does the music show on the telly, and on the music show, he presents a variety of different artists. And like being exposed to new music, like I said, it requires that someone sort of says, have you heard this? Have you seen this online? Or in the UK, like quite often, Jules Holland will put it on his programme, and then the whole nation gets a little listen to it. And this, do you know King Princess? But this happened 3 years ago, and it was probably the most recent time that I've got into a new act, because I just thought, wow, they're good, and it required someone else to be. I would never have known about King Princess unless they were on Jules Holland, because the way the music industry presents people to us, it's different on the internet, and it's different when you've got mates, isn't it? When you're like, because I'm not in this maybe social group or age range, maybe age range is wrong these days, but social group, no one sort of said to me, have you heard this? But when I did finally get exposed to it, I was like, this is amazing. So I love this, and I am going to put it on stream, but when I play it, it's going to mean that my stream YouTube channel suddenly, you know, oh, copyright, oh, it's somebody else, but chuff it. I did a big long stream where I haven't ruined it. Why not ruin it right at the end? If you haven't heard this, you'll love this. This is brilliant. I mean, you might not love it. Everything's, you know, it's up to you what you think of this. But, you know, Jules Holland, no introduction to me. I had the telly on, and he's like, here's a new band you might not have heard of. Here they are. So they play live. I just gobbed out there, just spat. They play live, which is another thing I really think is important. I don't want a new band to be exposed to me on the radio. I like seeing their performance live, and they do it live. So that was King Princess. And I thought one of the things that I really love about that is it's so brave. There's so much that they don't, they build to a quiet point, and there's so many things you could put in the mix that they don't put in. It's almost like the things that you don't say mean a lot, and the things that they didn't overcomplicate the music with, it doesn't, like the space in the music, the spaces they leave, yeah. And then, like, I like things with depth, don't I? So one of the things that's like good about King Princess as an artist is she's fairly androgynous, but I think she might be a lesbian. Probably is. Like, from the content of some of the other songs, they talk about like a more modern sexuality, and yeah, I just think like you know, when lyrics have depth and when like when lyrics have depth and when they mean something, yeah. That's a lovely song anyway. That's a lovely song. So I say I'm assuming it. They seem to speak about that in their music, and she seems to present that way. So, I mean, far be it from me to know the ins and outs of it, because sexuality is a spectrum, isn't it? And we put these names on things, but like because someone's drawn this box doesn't mean that you don't want to kiss so and so or do want to whatever. In focus now, you see the crap on my lips from the chocolate milk. Just noticed that. Have I done the whole broadcast with crap on my lips from the chocolate milk? Great. But yeah, so that was a powerful performance, wasn't it, live? So it was lovely to be introduced to them through that. But unless Jules Holland is going to get that country girl on, I'm not going to find a way of being exposed to her. Was the point really there? Was that interesting? Been an interesting stream. We haven't really got onto Elon Musk. This is Elon Musk's video game recommendations, and this is where we started. That's where we started. That's what we did today. We were going to have a look at some of my watch laters on the watch list. We watched one. It was a minute long, and it took us. Where have we got to now? We've been on for nearly 4 hours. Been on stream for nearly 4 hours. I haven't played any games. The point was, I thought we might even play a game later if I'd been on long enough. Haven't played any game. This is all the watch list that I wanted to get through at some point. Watch later. And we did Elon Musk's video game recommendation, and it was 30 seconds was his actual video game recommendation. 30 seconds it was, and then the rest of the minute was just him talking, and we did that, and it took us 3.5 hours, 4 hours to get from Elon Musk's recommendation to where we are now. And I don't know where we are now, and I don't know what we ended. What we ended with was lesbianism for the win. Yeah, lesbians speaking out through music. Do you know the sad thing is she'll never marry me. But then I suppose I could like have a bit more of a close shave. Alleged lesbian, yeah. There's still a chance. You can marry me, yeah. And then you'll have to write a beautiful song about it. And then you'll have to go on Jules Holland. It's the magic of seeing something that... the reason that whole... what do you call it? I want to say presentation. What would you call it? Their gig. Their bit on the show, their presentation. The reason it was all so special is because it just sort of happened by magic, didn't it? It was like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've never heard this before. I didn't tune in to listen to it because I'd never heard it. It was just on, and then like, oh wow, listen to that. It like caught my ear. That was lovely. Yeah. I've gone off on one, haven't I? I've really gone off on one. Yeah. There are a few things like that actually. It's not just King Princess. There are a few things that I love when I meet them. When I say meet them, you know, like when they happen, and a few things like that I should bring to the stream more often. You didn't like it? Oh. Surprised. Thought it was really lovely. Thought it was a really lovely song. Not all their songs are that good. You know when you find a band and you're like, oh, this is great, this is brilliant, I love this. And then you listen to the album and it's like, this is the slow song that I love, and all the rest of it. It's like, do you remember No Doubt? Now, I did love all of their music, and it was the slow song that I didn't really like that much. But the rest of the world loved Don't Speak, I Know What You're Thinking, I Don't Need Your Visa. You know, the world loved that. I went to see, this is a great story. I went to see No Doubt. We bought the tickets to go and see No Doubt. We liked all the ska punk. Me and my sister, and Gwen Stefani was a brilliant role model for the young girls, wasn't she? And she was like alive is the best way to put it. She was alive, wasn't she? She was red and alive, and bright and shiny and like alive. And so when No Doubt said they were going to tour the UK. We were like, brilliant. We bought the tickets at the Wolverhampton Wolfram Hall. The Wolverhampton. I'll show you. Wolverhampton Wolfram Hall. It looks quite impressive on the inside when you see a photo like this. Open image in a new tab. Thank you very much. Look, it's just like a big room, isn't it? Web browser. Big room. It's got an upper deck and low. That's modern now. They've updated that. It wasn't as nice as that back in the day. It wasn't as nice, but essentially, you know, it's this sort of building, and inside they do the gigs. You get it, don't you? It's just like a big hall, but it's not like a big venue. It's not like a you know, an arena or anything like that. It's just, you know, a couple of thousand people in the Wolverhampton Hall. So that's the exact entrance, isn't it? Is it where that's the entrance? I can get a photo. That's a good, yeah, it is. That's the front, the entrance. So let's get a good photo of that, and I'll start speaking on No Doubt. Open, so, okay, link in a new tab, opening a new tab. Oh, it's tiny picture, brilliant. So we went to go and watch No Doubt at the Wolverhampton Wolfram Hall. It was like one of their first tours of the UK. Like, we used to go and watch these bands because they were in Kerrang magazine and were into this rock music, and they'd come around, they'd do a UK tour. Wolverhampton would be our local closest gig hall that they'd go to. I watched the Deftones in there. I watched Foo Fighters in there on their first UK tour. So loads of bands I used to go and watch. And No Doubt came around. We went to go and see them. And it was the same time as Don't Speak was hitting the charts. In fact, the night we went to see them, Don't Speak went to number 1. So it was exactly the same sort of time. We bought the tickets before Don't Speak was released. It was released and it was popular. So we went to this gig. It was a really hot gig. You know, it was like a big gig to want to go to because they were hitting number 1 at the charts at exactly that. And we were in there for all the ska punk. Brilliant. I had big red Doc Marten boots on, big trousers. It was crowd surfing. And the bouncers were really not happy. There was quite a lot of people in there. It was a big gig, and there was quite a lot of people in there. And I got grabbed after I was crowd surfing, and the bouncer grabbed me, right? And like, what used to happen is they'd get you. Obviously, the bouncers get you when you did the crowd surfing. You end up at the front, and they get you and put you back in the crowd. But Don't Speak. No Doubt had come on. She was wearing those trousers, those tight tartan trousers. She was jumping around. They'd done a couple of songs. She got a tube of Smartie sweets. She was doing sweets, and they'd done a couple of songs. I was crowd surfing. It was right at the start of the night. Well, the first band had been on, No Doubt were on, second band. And the bouncer grabbed me, and he just chuffed me out the side door. I swear to you, he chuffed me out the side door. The chuff, I can't. Like, this place, it was cold. This is a good one. Opening a new tab. So you've got these big concrete pillars, and those blue things there, they're the doors, double doors. So the double doors were open, but they had another door behind them with like a window on it. You know, like the doors that go chung 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 like that. So I was thrown out the side of this building. So I'd run right round to the front straight. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, the bouncers just chucked me out just for crowd surfing, the chuffer. And I come round to the front, and I've got my ticket stub, and I'm knocking on the thing. Can you let me in? No, the doors are now locked. The gig is going. The doors are now locked. Sorry, no more entries. And I'm like, what? But I've got a ticket stub. No, you locked. I was out there for the whole night. Like, I saw the first 3 songs live, and then if you're looking through those doors, you can see the desk and like the merchandise stall, and then you can see another set of double doors, and through those double doors is the gig. So every time someone went in and out of those doors, I could see through my doors to their doors. I could see into the gig, and it would get louder every time someone. So quite often people were going in and out of those doors. You know, it's a busy gig. So, but what I had to do to experience No Doubt that night was huddle in this doorway, look through the double doors, and every time someone opened up those other doors, get a little look at it and hear the music through the. I paid my money. I didn't get to ride the ride, but it was an interesting night. I actually met some nice people. There were 3 or 4 other people out the front that had been thrown out or not let in for other reasons, and we all huddled together in the freezing. Like, you see how it's wet there and cold? It was like that, wet and cold. It was dark, and we all huddled together in the doorway and caught glimpses of Gwen Stefani through the double doors every now and then. They played Don't Speak. It was a big moment. I was already outside by then. That's the Wolverhampton Civic and Wolfram Hall. When we saw the Deftones, I think it was Chi. Was it Chi or was it the lead singer? One of the Deftones was playing on the skateboard on the other side of the road. There was some skateboarding people, and he was one of them. He'd got his skate. He saw that they were skateboarding. He brought his skateboard out and had a little skateboard with them. That happened. That's true. I saw that in real life. I didn't know who he was. I was just watched the skateboarders, and then as like other people went over there and were doing the autographs, I was like, he must be famous, I guess. And then I went over and I was like, you are the lead singer of the Deftones. That's who we're here to see. I just didn't expect to see you out there with the skateboard. I didn't go and get an autograph or anything. I just saw he was out there, and then he went in the side. Just like, wow, look at that going on. Foo Fighters played there on their first UK tour. That was amazing. That was brilliant. I saw Green Day in that building. Can you believe that? I saw Green Day in that building. Going back to this setup. A few hundred people in the upper deck, a few thousand in the lower deck, crammed in Green Day. One of the best nights of my life, watching Green Day in there. Crammed in Green Day, brilliant. They'd done Dookie. I don't think they'd released Insomniac. They were touring the Insomniac album. Saw Green Day in there on the Insomniac tour. That was amazing. And another fantastic band that I saw in there was Placebo. That was brilliant. Saw Brian Molko this far away. Could nearly touch him. He was just there. Just there. Yeah. Those were the days when I was a young whippersnapper. Young whippersnapper. Good old days at the Wolverhampton Wolfram Hall. All right, now it's nearly dog walking time. I've got to go. I've got to go and walk the dog. But we had an interesting one. It's been good. It's been good. The shame of it has been that this second camera is out of sync with my actual... The second camera, pointing at my face. The second camera, look, if you see me talking, I'm not talking in sync in the second camera. But I said this earlier, I just got to complain one more time. I spent a whole day setting up the VR thing. So this camera records the VR and it's in sync with the microphone. This camera records the stream and it's in sync with the microphone. So how are they out of truffing sync? But they are. So yeah. More fun and games, anon. I will see you anon. Not anonymous. It means later in Elizabethan English. I will see you anon. And you be good, my little puckos. And if you can't be good, then I'm going to take hundreds of billions of dollars and use it to make a film of your life. But it won't be about your life, will it? It'll just be a load of chuff and nonsense with explosions that's there to promote the sequel film of your life too. And that would be a shame, because you'd really want your life film to be done by someone arty and thoughtful who inspired and who was inspired and motivated and, you know, really caught the light in your eye and didn't have you as a giant CGI dinosaur. So that's why you should be good.